And howdy, folks. Welcome to Adventures in Alberon, our 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons game. I'm your Dungeon Master, Joe Treff, and joining me virtually for safety, we have Matt, Miles, Ali, and Tina. It's hard because usually I go around the table, and now, as Matt mentioned before, you guys are all over the place. So
Yeah.
it's a little disconcerting. So yeah, we play Dungeons and Dragons. Typically, we play in person. You can kind of see the table and the bats, which are the best part, behind Ali and Miles. But for the future, while all things are kind of a little bit different, we are doing it in this Discord format with a great background by Matt and by Tina, kind of running this entire thing, which is fantastic.
Yes.
We have a little bit more equipment coming, and we'll have some more. The quality will get better as we go, but for right now, super happy with what we have, and we get to play D&D, which is the best part. So a couple of things before we get started. We do have a little bit of music, which is our theme song in the background. That is by 100 Take Wonder on Reddit. Definitely check them out. They do some really, really cool custom music and different kinds of, a lot of fantasy themed sound and things like that. Very reasonable price. Also, check out our friend Drew's shop over at Dicey Encounters. He does custom dice. He actually just launched a new pre-order for the Descent into Avernus themed dice, which are like amazingly cool. They're dark and they have this like fire orange metallic kind of inside. Definitely really cool. Actually, Miles, the dice that he's making for you are kind of like the blue version of that.
Oh, weird. That's awesome.
So yeah, no, it's pretty
Spoiler.
cool.
Spoilers.
No, I think I sent you a picture of it, but
I think
either
so.
way.
Yeah.
The final announcement announcement that we do have our store, which is over. It's our Design by Human store. That thing's running up. There is a link at the bottom. You might notice that there is some information missing from our Twitch page. That's because in the near future, there's going to be an update to Twitch, which is going to change the way that all of that looks. So in preparation, we've removed a couple of things, and we've added a couple of things in. Those things will show up when that change takes place on Twitch. And that's all that I got for announcements, I believe. So with that, we can get into our recap. Let me just bring this up here. All right. So the last time that we played, our adventurers, the Finger Gang, made their way through the spell-cloaked gate, originally given this password and a symbol from Master Gamble back in Squall's End. Now, sort of Gunter commanding Virgil, the gatekeeper, just to open the door, which he did, because Virgil is not very wise, and allowing you guys into this Shadowscav base, sort of nestled on the outskirts or underneath the Undercity. You all talked with Virgil for a little bit, learning a little bit about the organization and a small amount about the Undercity. Miles, you insulting his sculpture work.
I did not. I
Briefly.
tried very hard not to.
No, he just insulted his mother, not the sculpting.
Little column A, little column B. But after that social miscue, you made your way into the Undercity proper. You first met Kenku, named Kevin the Kenku, who attempted to communicate something with you, and just unfortunately, the language barrier a little too much to overcome. You let Kevin just walk away or hop away, and decided to make your way somewhere to get a drink, perhaps rest and recollect and figure out what the next step was. Gunter, you and Morwen broke off briefly from the group just to go and see something off in the distance, and then broke into this ramshackle domicile. In searching through, you found this cloak within this crawl space or within this sort of hidden area, coated with some kind of toxin, which I believe you told the group was drugs. Just bunta. You guys took the gold and left the remainder there. All of you eventually found your way to the Gentle Repose after picking your way through a part of the Undercity that is just kind of desolate rock. Various statues kind of dotting the place. The Gentle Repose being the sort of Victorian-style building just very, as you put it, kind of Miles, out of place, transposed into this area and entering met. I don't think you actually still know her name. I don't think you guys got that. But you entered this wonderful inn, empty except for the ghosts that supposedly haunt it. Although you haven't firmly seen them. I think you saw a shadowy shape within the bar, which is where you all now reside. After Krodok expressed his understanding of Morwen's intentions, you now gather around. It is about 2:30 in the afternoon, not terribly late. You guys started day drinking. It is the 26th of Deep Winter. So you guys are kind of getting over the crest of the worst part of the winter. Shay, you would know, very mild actually up north. You guys got a little bit of that blizzard at the tail end, but even that, not substantial by northern standards. But you all sit sort of around in these stuffed chairs in this small, sort of very intimate kind of bar or lounge. There's a stage off to the corner. You can see an area where an actual bar is and could potentially be stocked. It is empty. As you guys have heard, this is not a very popular destination. But
And
it is
plus, she can summon stuff out of her back, so.
kind of unclear. But yeah, with
Could
your
be her
perception
butt.
check, really unclear as to where it's coming from. But yeah, so she seems very handy and she seems very eager to please and keep some people actually within this very, very strange inn. What would you guys like to do?
Eat.
Okay.
I think
So
we had just
before
had
you-
weird social interactions and hadn't yet set out to eat what was delivered to us.
I think Gunter and I have eaten
Oh, that's
veggies and
true.
sausages.
You guys were eating your weird like tubers or something.
So Morwen,
The pocket bacon.
as Krodok extended this offer to kind of at some point speak about this potential arrangement between you and him. You did overcook the sausage, just kind of holding it out over the fire the entire time. Gunter cracked into it, and that's kind of where we ended. So yeah, Gunter is the only one sort of masticating this slightly charred, but still very tasty sausage. There are 10 dwarven stouts kind of mostly on the table, although they don't all quite fit. So there's one off on a side table next to Shay, and then another one just placed on the ground next to you, Heinrich. But yeah, you guys have this full spread. You have the sausage, you have bread, which does have nobody's eaten it yet, but it does have this kind of strange, almost reddish, Heinrich, kind of like your skin almost hue, sort of muddied and brown. But yeah, so you eat a little bit of the sausage, Morwen, and as you crack into it, it is charred, it is hot. You did actually just take it off the fire, and so the juice kind of sizzles a little bit in your mouth, but it is smoky. It is full of very rich, almost cinnamon-like flavor, just on the end, or maybe not cinnamon, maybe clove. But not terrible considering you did burn the hell out of it.
I'm gonna take a slice of the bread and put like a little face on it. Be like, Heinrich.
And so as
I'm
as
in my
Morwen-
I'm in my second beer, so I'm feeling fun.
yeah, so as this bread kind of whips out towards you, how are you drawing a smiley face on?
Oh, with your
Oh,
claws.
okay. So you just wanna just poke out two little holes and scratch the mouth in. Heinrich, all of a sudden, as you're kind of considering the food before you and also the conversation that just happened across you, this smiley face just suddenly
Yeah.
right in your face. It is the bread you are now seeing kind of at the cross section. There
Mhm.
are these circular maybe grains of some kind, like a seed. But yeah, it smiles in front of you, kind of wobbling.
And I just kind of take it from
No,
her
you
hand.
I eat it before he takes it, but not the crust. I just take a bite of like the inside.
So I go to reach for it then, I guess, and I just kind of, right. Well, and I just kind of like go towards the stuff on the table instead.
So
I
you
give
begin
him the
eating like a
crust.
civilized person.
Yeah.
I give him my crust.
All right. Worth noting, the owner has not left. They are kind of standing back at the door,
Right.
Just kind of, their hands still up at their chest, the other hand behind their back, just kind of waiting. They do have a smile on their
Have a
face. They're pretty
beer.
happy.
Oh,
She
no.
begins to
busy.
step forward, and then as you say, have a beer, she sort of draws herself back again. I cannot drink on the job, but thank you.
What's your name, anyways? We've been rude and just kind of at the end of a pretty long few days.
Not at all. You are my guest, and welcome to engage in society as you wish. You are clearly not from here, and your customs may be different than ours.
Right. Names are always fifth on the list, usually, where I come from. It's a joke. I'm just kidding. It's a terrible one.
It was
Anyways,
quite good. You can tell she has no idea what that actually meant. It was quite good. My name is Cindario in my language, but you can call me Cinder.
Cinder. I like that name.
It's very simple.
Yes, it's easy to remember.
So where are these ghosts? Want to see the ghosts?
Well, the Gentle Repose is well known for their ghosts, but they are not pets. They cannot be commanded. You may or may not see them.
Hello, ghosts.
How did this place come to be here?
Have a beer.
Make a persuasion check, Allie.
Oh, I was like, do I need to really ask how she found it?
What? How the ghost came here?
No. How did this business come to be here? Is what I'm asking, not the
Okay.
ghosts.
24.
24. Her head snaps over to Morwen. And Morwen, you said you're trying to persuade the ghost to have a beer.
Politely. I'm saying
Roll-
hello, ghosts. Join me.
Roll a d4 for me.
1.
Oh, the best one.
Okay.
Potentially. We don't know.
So, as you sort of say this, and Heinrich already kind of begins to ask the first question, you can see above there are these kind of, not torches, but almost like gas lanterns that are arranged in pairs, each slightly angled out from the other. And they're sort of around the room, providing a very, very soft light, almost as if there's a fireplace. It's a darker, very intimate because it is a smaller space. But for just a moment, as you do that, you see first off to your right one of those kind of flicker, and then another set of the pair just sort of flickers, and then around, sort of next to you, up and above maybe 2 feet, you can see one and then the other very quickly just sort of flickers. That's all you see. Meanwhile, Heinrich, you asking about how does this come to be here? What was the exact?
Right. I was phrasing it as vaguely as possible, sort of
Yes.
flip-flopping it on, is this place from here, and also like, when was it founded, and all the kind of actual regular questions.
Okay.
But if she catches on to it, I'm like paying close attention to see if she, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Okay. She just sort of like, first you can see that her eyes do track the torches as they just kind of go and flicker around, and there is a smile on her face as she turns back to you. This is one of the only buildings still remaining from the original district around the Tower of the Stony Sister, or the Stony Woman. I don't know how much you've heard of our local folklore, but this was as populous as the Pillar of People and its neighborhoods for a time. There are other structures out there, most of them ruins, but I chose this place because it is unique. I am not sure why it still stands, although it wasn't quite as nice. And she gestures around, and you can still see in the decorations, although they are nice, and it is a very beautiful place. Looking very closely, and as she kind of gestures, it's a large enough establishment that for one person, this is a lot to take care
There's
of.
a lot
And
of
there
it.
yeah, there's some areas where they could use some attention, and there are areas where like the paint is peeling just a little bit. It's a place that's been well taken care of for what it is. But I have some of the original residents to thank, I would imagine.
To your patrons, and I kind of
Yeah, who's your favorite ghost?
Well, not
those
patrons.
residents. Is that a fair question or a fair way to put it?
They come and go, and so residents, might be fair for the ones present, but as best as I can tell, there are 3 here at the moment. There is the Admiral. It's not him that you called because he is quite loud. The easiest to hear talking. Those who come seeking ghosts see him most often. There is the ghost of the only person who has, to my knowledge, anyways, ever died here. She was a dwarf who was taken ill quite suddenly and died. Upstairs, I can show you the room if you would like. If you would like it, it's just a bit extra. And the third is sort of a strange one. He wanders through and is even paler. You can't actually see a face, but he wears a robe and it is almost spotted, if you could believe it. Not very ghost-like. He seems confused more than anything.
Is that who I called?
That would make the most sense to me. They are.
What's his name?
As far as anybody can tell, it's Scott.
Yo, Scott! I've got a beer for you.
Nothing
Nothing?
happens.
Okay.
Scotty!
Okay.
Even more, nothing happens.
Admiral!
Negative things happen. Well, as far as I know, none of us, at least certainly myself, don't really know anything about this area, and
Yeah, we
specifically
certainly don't
the
know anything about
folklore.
anything here.
Yeah, but
Well,
what?
there is a long history to the Undercity and to Kol Taram. I'm not sure what you would like to know, but
Well,
More about
first,
the ghosts.
firstly, if I could, just what happened to this area? If this is, the mysterious standing of this building after something clearly cataclysmic happened, what happened to the area in general?
the Undercity is not a city in the way that you may be used to them. The neighborhoods do not stay constant. They shift, they realign. Sometimes they are torn down, and sometimes they are built back up. There was as far as I can tell, probably true, but a giant attack on the city at one point. Stone giants. They still live actually across the large drain that separates us from the other side.
Here in Kol Taram, there are giants.
Not in Kol Taram, and not even within the city. But yes, they hide themselves very carefully. They are not ones to be disturbed.
And you have
I would
seen them.
welcome. I would welcome almost any company to my humble establishment, but not them. I have not seen them.
So how do you know that they're real?
Well, as you
Oh, we
venture
haven't seen
around,
the ghosts. And I know they're real.
well,
Okay.
many people have seen the ghosts actually. But to your point, around the city you will find many large boulders. These different than the ones that our floors and walls are crafted, but different than the pillars even. They have the sort of blue cast to them, and that ventures from. And they sort of lean. There are no windows in this establishment. It is, built, or not within this lounge. It is built off into the corner, and so
Right.
it's very much like designed to be a bar.
Yeah.
But pointing sort of in a direction that you would judge to be sort of northerly, across the Great Ditch. The only way that is easy, I'm sure all of you, your various talents, and paying very much attention to Shay with that, and Chronic, would have no trouble crossing. But to those of us more earthbound, there is a fallen pillar that stretches across, almost 100 feet wide, much larger than a bridge. You could go there, but those who do not come back.
What's beyond the Great Ditch?
The Great Ditch. There is a community of stone giants, is what is believed to be there. What keeps the
quite
Undercity
close.
from breaking out into all-out war, as you might imagine, where there are no laws, there can be quite a bit of aggression, is the threat of those stone giants. I have heard that when this place does get especially boisterous, they rain stones larger than houses on the community. And as a whole, we all, even the red cap goblin, know that that's a bad thing.
Right. Especially because you're all trapped in here together, kind of. Trapped as loose word, I suppose.
We don't like to think of it that way.
Well, this food is good, thank you. Where do you procure all of this from?
Well, the
So
bread
magically.
comes from it is no magic. We have deals with most of the people who produce food. It is limited what we can obtain here, but the bread is a wheat that is imported from the outside, mixed with a very large serving of the local bloodworm. Um,
Ah,
these large, sort of very meaty creatures that make up a majority of the foodstuffs down here.
that much we have
And
learned since
now
we've been
you
here.
thinking about this bread, those
Yeah.
little nuts, probably cross sections. Of
Yeah,
bones.
I'm like kind of holding my stomach right now.
But uh, for things such as this dwarven stout, it is a little bit harder to come by. We try to keep everything on stock, but there are things that we simply can't produce.
Right. Okay. I suppose then. The I just kind of like pull out my bag. I'm like, yes, but how do you like get? And then I kind of put my hand in way farther than it should be. Pull out, I don't know, like a
What do you
gold
pull out?
piece. Pull out a gold piece.
She watches, and I mean, a gold piece is not terribly.
No. But I put my arm in like beyond where the bottom would be. Like I'm intentionally showing that this is like way larger of a space.
Okay. There is no immediate reaction from. She smiles and just says, "One of the things that I pride myself on within the Gentle Repose is providing the best experience for all of my guests. And that means being prepared."
All right. You do it well. This is, yes, it's appreciated. And I kind of hand it to her.
Thank you very much.
I hand her the
She
gold piece.
Takes the gold. Thank you very much. So, if I might ask, if you are all new to this city, to our wonderful, somewhat chaotic city, where are you intending to go? If you do not know very much, I could be of help.
Kind of look around everyone. Well, hold on. There was actually someone that.
I'm while he's thinking about that, I'm just gonna bring out Frank the Skull onto like the bar.
Okay.
Be like, Frank, get a ghost.
Okay. So you put Frank, this very worn now areas around the socket that once held the zombie beholder's eye, that is like a little bit discolored and kind of orange, like a very slight tinge to it. You set it down on the counter and you tell it to find ghosts. And that happens. Cinder, who's watching all of this, smiles at first and then just immediately, like very little reaction. Her attention immediately goes back to you, Heinrich.
Yeah. So this may be more of a personal goal, but I'm actually looking for someone who has been rumored to at least have entered the city in some way or another, but hasn't yet been seen in the city. Haven't really asked many people because we don't know many people, but you may know. There's a tiefling of sort of more gray complexion, might have come with a group of other tieflings not too long ago. I don't know if you know much of the goings-ons outside of your establishment, but anything?
Sorry, there's a clicking, and I was trying
Yeah.
to figure out where it's coming from. I think I just figured it out. But
Yeah, I think it's Tina's.
It's
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
It's my radiator. I can't do anything about it.
Ooh, rough. Okay, so you're asking about the goings-ons just in general, or is
No,
there...
specifically looking for my bro. I just described him, but
Okay, sorry, I was-
no, it's fine. We'll shortcut.
Okay, so describing him.
And the group that he may have come with, and that he came in
Actually.
through like a certain area, you know,
Yep.
and hasn't been
Just check.
seen since they arrived. But just wondering.
Check her notes real quick. No, I have not seen this group of tieflings, although I have heard of them. There are whispers sometimes at night here, and there are talks of quite a few refugee groups coming in and out.
Mhm.
Thinking back on it, not tieflings specifically, but you would want to talk probably to, well, how within the law are you comfortable existing outside of?
Uh, I mean, strange way to ask the question, but I also just kind of look to Gunter and Morrowind.
Why?
I'm just
We're
like,
outstanding citizens.
there are maybe times where the law is less important, I suppose.
While he's doing that, she just cues in and looks at me, and I'm pouring a drink into Frank's mouth, but since there's a hole, I'm drinking it.
Okay, so for that, I mean, she is sort of now like trying to maintain a very
When he
Right.
side-eyed me.
respectful.
As I'm looking and she's looking, I'm like, well, and I lean in so that Mormon can hear. I'm like, well, I mean, if things like standard social, cultural things, like drinking in a not very bizarre manner are this hard for. The law isn't really as big of an issue for some of us, basically.
Well,
And
there
then
isn't
I put
a
Frank down and
law.
I belch real loud.
Okay,
Keep going.
that you see,
I'm
like
just-
this very.
I'm just setting the
she's-
background. Just the background.
She's really having trouble maintaining her composure, but she's doing her best. She's really trying to trek through. You can see every time that one of these things happens, she kind of flinches a little bit. But to you, she tries very hard to maintain this polite decorum. And because I actually did get very distracted by that story, you and the clicking, you are asking.
We're
The clicking is killing me.
It's fine. Specifically, basically, where my brother is, if she's seen him, and if there may be places that people like that would go, knowing that he is probably traveling with people who are, with Helm, or at least in that sort of alignment,
The Undercity is not a religious place. Not a place that worshippers linger for a very long time. There is a sort of general place of worship, sort of a area for anybody to go and feel. There are many like small tokens and things like that left there.
Sure.
Perhaps
A
they
unified
visited
place
there.
of prayer, maybe, or something. Maybe not
Yes.
even prayer. It seems a little big of a word.
Were they fleeing Colcheron?
I don't know. I haven't told her it's my brother, by the way, just to make a point of that.
Yeah.
I'm just like loosely describing that I have heard these people would have arrived here recently. So no, they're not fleeing. They would have just arrived, maybe to lend aid or something.
Well, if they were going to lend aid, the place to check would be around the base of the Pillar of Stairs. Most of the people who have some kind of invested interest within the Undercity have gathered there or sent some faction. Even the Goblins have a squad. I do not know what one would call a group of goblins, but they
A
are
gaggle.
there. Perhaps, yes, they are goose-like in their aggression. But there are. I do enjoy. I think it is a nice sound. Let's go with it. I would check there. There is a stockade that is manned by a few of the factions here, if you will. I imagine one of the cold rots is in charge, just as they do have the overwhelming number. But
How do
in
you
order
feel
to
about that?
render, they are a powerful group of people who put a lot of money into the city, which is good.
Very, very neutral answer. I understand.
I want to I'm giving her the
Make an insight check
what's she hiding?
if you really need. She's not hiding it on purpose. She's not in any way being subtle about this.
Well, that's good because I think that's
She's being political.
12.
12. You've Gunter probably noticed that she's really looking for some business in this establishment. She's really trying to get anybody to come through the doors and stay that are not dead already. And so maybe, she's just trying to protect any interest they may have in this establishment. She wants to
Don't
get
rock
that
the boat.
patronage as well,
Oh.
Yeah.
Which room's the most haunted?
This establishment, the
Yeah.
room in which the dwarf died.
Oh, which one's? How much is that? Stay in.
For you, who have given me such wonderful patronage as a group and plan on staying how long again?
Oh, I don't know.
We're not sure yet. At least the night.
It
Absolutely.
depends how spooky.
Well, if it depends on how spooky, why don't I arrange for you to stay there this evening? No extra charge, and we can discuss it once you've had your experience, as I'm sure you will have.
How about we just go and see the room? I think that would.
If you
Because
would
we're
like
all
to
done
see it,
eating,
I
I'm
could
assuming,
show you.
right?
Give us
Yeah,
a
looking
tour.
around, you can see Krodek actually hasn't really touched much of his food.
Right. Not much for the late worm.
He doesn't eat a lot. But you would also notice that Nilly Winslow has sort of finished, and at this point is almost like kind of half corner. Very much probably as relaxed as you've seen him.
Is he
Yep.
drinking?
He was.
Does he want another?
Are you asking him?
I'm asking Frank. Does Willie want another?
And Frank responds in the way that Frank always responds. A sort of
Franks.
Hell
confused,
yes.
cold. Okay, so it kind of bobbles on your tail. And you and Frank both turn to. What do you want to do?
Drink up, buddy.
You can see in the corner, Nilly, who has kind of just kicked back a little bit, the bright sherry red sort of lyre that he has kind of held in his hands. His feet kicked up on the table and they suddenly come down. He comes up. He has to grab the instrument before it falls. He kind of bumbles it a little bit. Oh, why do you have a skull on your tail?
Because that's Frank and he's my best friend.
He sets the instrument down on the
I
ground.
kind of nod over her shoulder, looking at him. Yeah, I mean,
He looks over at Krodek. Well, I kind of thought that fella be your friend over there, because on account of you guys getting married or something.
So,
I
different kind of friend.
Okay.
Crunching a sausage.
Is that not something that we're supposed to talk about? I mean, you guys just had the whole conversation.
I don't
not
know what you're talking about. That's so weird. Krodek, do you want a beer? Have a beer. Here you go. I give him 2.
Krodek takes them both and just sets them down on the table. Morwen, we did just have this conversation.
Let's
We
go see
spoke-
that ghost room.
And as you turn, Cinder nods. If you would all like to see it, it would be my pleasure and the gentle repose's great honor to show you.
I approach Krodek for a second. I'm like, don't take it too harshly, buddy, and pat him on the back.
No, he said
His
we were
head-
going to talk about it. He's like, I'll let you know. Like,
His very bird-like face just kind of turns
Yeah.
so that he can face you.
I'm like,
I am confused about Morwen. She seems to feel one thing and say another, and it changes so often.
Yes. People of your order are very mean what they say what they mean, and not a lot of the world is that way. Morwen is probably one of the most prime examples of the opposite.
It is confusing. But
Yes.
Do I hear
Yes, it
this?
is. I'm making
yeah,
sure.
this. Well, I mean,
it's not like I'm not
disguising
like.
anything saying.
Yeah, I'm not. I'm sure Krodek isn't replying in a disguised way, but
So you would hear most of what Krodek's saying and kind of mumbles, saying enough to probably put the conversation together. But
yeah, I'm buzzed. I'm going for the ghosts.
that's kind of why I was.
this is something that requires work, but all things that are worth it require some commitment and dedication to a pursuit. Perhaps the confusion is the
Krodek is
first step
saying
on a
that.
longer path. Yes. Um,
It's like, Frank.
Frank is not terribly verbose, as he is a skull with
Right.
nothing special about him except that you've lugged him around for over a year in real life.
Joe, he'll hear you. Please.
Any.
So Cinder turns and takes a couple of steps, just kind of looking over her shoulder, the white hair kind of in that very functional bun. A little bit kind of messy now that she's kind of had to hustle 10 of these dwarven stouts in and kind of ferry you guys back and forth and come up with this entire meal. But she sort of starts to lead you and then turns over to make sure you're following.
I'm gonna be like, I'll catch up to you guys. I'm gonna finish some of these beers.
She nods.
I think we've left you with like 6.
And I'm gonna move to go as if I'm gonna start drinking one of them.
Okay.
So
and
who's-
she nods and just turns and continues walking.
So who's
So-
I'm following.
Okay.
Sure.
You can see Nilly Wenzel is kind of like kicked feet back up, and as far as you can tell, he's still asleep. So
I
probably
suppose
not
I'd
him.
follow too.
Okay. So it's Morwen, Heinrich, Cinder. What are you
Frank.
doing, Shay?
Frank.
I've refused to count Frank.
Yeah, I'll go.
Okay. So Gunter, you are left with an unattended Nilly Wenslow, who is slumbering in this warm space, free of the bars and horrible oppression of the creature in which you fought, but probably not much safer. And the rest of you follow Cinder, and with Croddock kind of taking up the rear. And she takes you back and out to the room that you originally entered in, tile floor, wooden desk. These 2 staircases that wrap in either direction out and then up to the second floor. She takes the right staircase, her hand kind of just drifting along this well-worn, curved, almost it's this beautiful wood that, looking at it, it's scuffed in places and fairly worn, but enough care has been taken so that you can see within it there's this beautiful sort of marbling of darker and lighter wood grains that show sort of intricate knots. It is quite beautiful and quite old, but her fingers kind of trace up it as she goes, and you go up about 15, 16 feet to the second floor, and the second floor has these sort of, it is still tile floor, but you can see at one point this vibrant red, now faded a little bit, so it's kind of a maroon, and the gold fringe that kind of comes off in tassel. A lot of the tassels are a little bit dirty, some of them kind of clumped together, and something that hopefully is mud. But you can see there are maybe 3 doors in either direction, and then a central hallway that goes down, 2 doors on either side there. She turns. So are we seeing the room in which you are staying first? It is quite grand. Or would you like to see the haunted room first?
I thought I was staying in the haunted room.
Well, there is not enough beds in the largest room, so I think we had discussed perhaps renting out 2 or 3. But however you would like to arrange it amongst yourselves, I'm sure we can come to some kind of an understanding. But what room you want to see the haunted?
Haunted room. Haunted room. I'm doing with Frank on my fist.
Okay, so you're fisting Frank and cheering haunted room.
I am going to put Frank. No, I'm going to keep Frank out. I'm going to keep Frank
Okay.
out. I don't know if it's going to be disrespectful, but he is my best friend, so I hope they'll respect that.
Okay, sure. She turns.
A lot of weird
walks.
layers of respect.
You know, I respect the respect of the respect.
Attempted respect.
So you watch as she goes down to the right and walks to the second door, the middle one in this kind of wing. And she turns and pulls. You can see. I would say now, kind of seeing her in profile. Heinrich, you especially can see on her belt there is this long, perhaps this long, curving around, almost as if it's this like padded section of the belt that she wears. You watch as her hand kind of goes to one end, and her fingers, these very slender, almost kind of black fingers, reach in and produce longer than the actual length of this. What you can now see is a sort of scrunched and rolled sack of some kind.
Mm-hmm.
But very narrow. Pulls out this very long key and inserts it into the door, kind of unlocks and pulls the door open. It opens very quietly, and the space inside is very dark. You can see from just like the gas lights that are out in the hallway a little bit into the room. It goes back, for those of you with dark vision, you can see all the way back. It goes back about 15 feet, and within it there is this bed. The bed itself has like a pretty high quality mattress. This isn't just like straw stuffed into a sack, but it is bare. There is a sort of end table with 2 drawers that pull out to the right of that. And I would say, for those of you with dark vision, Shay, you're not wearing your mask in here, right?
No, I would have taken it off.
Okay, so you don't make these details out so much, but on the floor, on the right side, or sorry, on the left side of the bed, there is dark staining. And you notice here, rather than tile, there is wood. The rooms seem to have kind of wooden floors, but there's stained, very dark floorboard patches that very quickly, for those of you who withdraw blood from other creatures quite frequently, could identify as a sort of splatter of blood on the ground. Very old, very like dried, kind of more of a stain. The rest of the room is very bare, and even opening it, you can feel who's in front of this group, who's leading. I would imagine Morwen.
Well, Cinder, hopefully, right?
Well, Cinder, but you, as she opens the door, the first person in front, Morwen, you feel the air that comes out of this room has a bit of a stale smell, but you can feel your fur bristle a little bit because it is quite cold. As if you open the door to like a refrigerator, and the air just kind of spills out across. There is no breeze, but it exits out. What do you guys want to do?
So how did the person die in here?
Well, she was a dwarf. Her name, I don't remember her full name, but Ava, I believe. Era, something like that. She was a Coltram dwarf, and she came down and took quite ill very suddenly. We don't carry diseases or anything like that within the Undercity, at least nothing that any of you would have to worry about. But she simply passed in the night.
So then what's
So
the...
why is there blood?
Yeah.
She turns and kind of looks at the stain. Morwen, make a medicine check.
17.
17. Wow, good medicine check from Morwen. Look at that.
Yeah.
So now, kind of like reaching and looking back, you can see it does appear to be blood, although with a 17, I would say you can, and maybe being a tabaxi, at some point I really have to establish the real sort of wild habits of tabaxi here, because there's not a lot of them in Dominion or even on Alberon. But there is a nature to it that would suggest it is probably not a humanoid. This is probably like a larger animal. And you can see as you regard it and as Cinder regards it, she turns up and says, it is part of one of the creatures in which people eat. They do eat them raw, but the bloodworms do make a little bit of a mess if you bite into them. Think of it
Gross.
like you've never really had them, and they're not many options for protein.
It's a lot of blood for a worm.
Ava.
It isn't. Make a persuasion check. Make it at disadvantage too for reasons.
She hates tabaxi.
This racist old dwarven woman.
Well, that was a critical fail.
Okay.
What's the number?
Well, it'd be a 9,
Okay.
but
In this moment, the air around you, Morwen, already opening, grows even colder. And then all at once, it normalizes, and you just feel the sort of presence of this inn around you. The little bit of your hair that kind of prickled up now smooths down. Whatever supernatural thing that you had kind of summoned downstairs seems to have sort of abated.
Wham, wham. No goes for you.
are you in here?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm gonna whisper to you and be like, I don't know if this is really haunted.
Like,
Whispers.
yeah, I haven't seen anything yet, I guess, but
Good thing the room's free. And I'm just
don't think
so
that's
show me
free.
the. Oh, it's not.
what
I'm not paying.
are
for
the
no
other
ghosts.
rooms? This is interesting, I suppose. So she died in here, and you took all the furniture out, and there's a stain on the floor. You do keep it very clean. It's very, all things considered.
Oh, except for that. And I point at the stain.
Yes, it is. There are many stories about the stain. It is unusual, although not unheard of, to eat bloodworms raw.
Hmm.
And anytime something like that happens, people suggest odd things. That this dwarf may have been a vampire, that she may not actually still be dead.
Still,
The tales,
Oh.
the tales
plot
run wild.
thickens.
And so we could, through magical means, although magic here, but when you've been here for a time, you know where to look.
Hmm.
We could have the stain removed. We could redo the floor, but there is a certain draw to these stories.
Well, sure. How about the other rooms that you were?
Yeah, let's keep going. Let's keep going.
Sure. And she closes the door. And Allie, for just a moment, through the disappointment of not seeing a ghost, you can almost swear that and you have Frank in your hand. You can almost swear that you feel Frank just kind of almost rattle a little bit.
Oh, it's okay, baby. It's okay. I got you.
Frank feels much better. You guys follow Cinder around and you go into the central hallway, and the very last door on the left opens up. You can see, just as before, she pulls a key almost from nowhere behind her and from this little section on her belt, unlocks the door. And as it opens, this one is a little bit warmer, but brighter. There is light that comes out, the same faded gas lantern or whatever kind of lanterns these are that light the interior of the bar and of the rest of this of the Gentle Repose. There is two large beds, roughly like queen size beds that stand up. These ones have these large, dark wooden kind of banisters. There are dark black with these sort of patterns in velvet over silk embroidery, with just little bits of fabric gold that make these intricate patterns of black wood and little delicate gold flowers that go across the entire bed and then drape over it like a canopy.
Mhm.
Between each, there is a huge, what probably at some point was designed as a bookcase, that kind of has this beautiful curve to the top. And within it now, there are just like little trinkets and knickknacks. You can see small statues and little, what look like almost like glass vases, although there are no real flower things down here. So you can see these little piles of different interestingly colored, like pebbles and little bits and baubles.
Mhm.
You can see, I would say, Heinrich, you can see in this particular, off and to the right, what could be mistaken as a piece of maybe modern art, but it has a strange resemblance to a sculpture that you saw very recently. Um,
I'm gonna
but
at that actually point out, be like, oh, Virgil, is that the name?
yes,
Do you
Virgil.
know, you were familiar with Virgil? Ah,
Yes, he works at one of the inns in the city.
oh, interesting.
He's a rather big, sort of
And I just do this.
compact. Yes, you've met Virgil.
Yeah. So he gave you one of the sculptures of his mother.
Well, that's not his mother, apparently. Although I see you've seen his work.
Right. I
This
fear I
is
may have offended
supposedly
him.
a Kleinhound, although it bears no real resemblance that I can see. But Virgil is one of the few people who does attend this establishment from time to time. He too enjoys ghost stories, and once a year he does stay.
Interesting. How well do you know him? And
Not well.
possibly his friends.
He enjoys chatting with people, but he doesn't talk too much about his family or his past. He speaks about this the Dark Hive. It's a cold rot place.
Right.
And because he works with them and because the cold rots and I haven't always gotten along the best, I like to keep him happy and allow him to attend to his own privacy.
Hmm.
But this is the larger of and she turns and walks a couple feet over and opens the second door, the door right next to it. And you can see very similar quality. There is no like overhanging banister or beautiful sort of canopy on this bed, but still very fine dark wood, comfortable looking beds. There are foot lockers at the end of each of them. A little bit more functional is this room and a little bit smaller, and there is just the one queen bed. But this is what the rest of the rooms look like.
How much do they go a night?
Well, for one room, there is a price of 5 silver a night, which will include food tomorrow, should you wake early enough for breakfast. Although you do not all strike me as morning people, which means you will get along quite well here.
I feel like I may have already lost track of time without the sun overhead.
I would imagine it is quite disorienting, but it is something that your body grows used to after it. Try to keep the same hours and you will normalizes, or so I'm told. But
How long have you been down here? Do you live your entire life here?
I've seen above, but I've never really gone. I don't know why you would want to. It is terrifying.
Okay. Maybe immediately outside, but...
Nah, you're not wrong.
It's frigid and white, and the wind howls constantly, and it is warm here.
I suppose if you were born here, that would be awful alternative, so I don't see... Yeah, that makes sense.
It feels as if you could just fall off.
Fall off?
Yes, there's just so much above.
Ah, I see.
Even the deepest canyons here have a bottom. If you fall, you will die, but you will know where to collect the body. Above, if you fall, where do you end?
Are you talking above as in you go straight up to the top? Because there's ground and you can... Is that the only exit that you know of?
Which are you referring to?
I'm asking because when she said that, I'm like, did she just go out the top of the mountain? Is that it?
Make an insight check. I mean,
Yeah. Trying to piece together like what she's talking about. Really, that's not very great. No, I think I'm just kind of in shock about the way she said fall off.
So the
like,
way
I
that
get it.
way that you're kind of
She's gonna
guessing
call
it.
crack.
Also, thank you, Asumi, and thank you, Talon, for the bits. You're getting it. So what she's really meaning is, so where she looks when you look up. For some of you, it's a little difficult to see, but there is always a ceiling. There is always an
Right.
above. When you go above ground and you've never really seen it, the sky looks like it goes on forever. And for
Right.
somebody who's used to there always being a limit or a boundary, that is incredibly disorienting. And
Gotcha.
it feels as if at any moment, like you could just fall off.
I see.
And that's kind of what she's expressing.
Okay, that makes more sense.
Yeah.
Oh, that was just like kind of how deep is kind scale twisting their minds.
No. And yeah, no. It's just she doesn't like being in an open space. She's not from there. And her kind don't do super well either.
Right. Okay.
Let's go check up on the rest of the people.
Right, yeah. So 2 silver a night, that's not so bad per...
No, 5 silver.
5 silver per night. But if you are getting more than one room, we of course arrange some kind of a deal.
Right, okay. Well, we'll just talk to everyone and see what we can come up with then.
So while all this is happening, Gunter, you can hear the footsteps of your friends fade as they go out of the lounge, and then you hear one by one all of them. Although you don't hear Shay and you don't hear Croddick, but you assume that they're there. But one by one, you hear them all go up the stairs, and you are now hear just the soft snoring of Nilly Winslow, and you are alone within this lounge. What are you going to ruin?
I'm gonna look around and I'm gonna casting sending.
Okay.
Say, Scott, is that you?
Let me really quick look at sending because
You can send the message across any distance, planes, but if the target is on a different plane than you, there is a 5% chance that the message doesn't arrive.
roll 2d10 for me rather. Roll a d100.
That's a third level spell, dude. Holy shit. That's awesome.
That's 100.
Okay. So you close your eyes and you concentrate. The darkness, not just around you immediately, but in this place. The almost oppressive darkness that closes in. You're a hill dwarf. You're not from the coals. You're not from any of the citadels of Alberon or the great underground or within ground spaces. And so you concentrate, and for just a moment, you hear the snoring from Nilly Wenslow kind of cease, and you are in this kind of vacuumous silence. And you hear, Graham? Who's
Scott!
Graham? Who's Scott?
Scott, you're here!
It doesn't work like that. I think you send one message and then you hear that come back. And
Scott!
that's it.
Why is it so distorted?
Because it's loud. It's
I
Gunter.
guess so.
As you say that, Nilly kind of jerks awake. You can see he kind of smooths down his blue jacket and looks up at you. Why are you yelling?
Bad dream. Go back to sleep.
Oh, you're about to give me a bad dream. He kicks his
Yeah,
head
I'm
back,
about to give you more than that.
and you can see already his head shakes a little bit, but he's already kind of back asleep. Yeah. So you heard just the soft voice, perhaps, of Useful Scott.
All right, I'm gonna. It's just in my head.
It's too bad we're all not there to see this happening.
I'm looking around for stuff to steal now.
Okay, are you just kind of like quickly
Point
looking
blank.
around, or you
Yeah, I gotta take my mind off things. I gotta
make a
distract
perception
myself.
check? Yeah, make a perception check.
Just like, what's good around here?
What's good around here? What isn't nailed down?
I'm really out of focus because I was a natural 1.
Yeah, so I mean, your heart's beating. You just
Still
heard a
a 10.
voice.
Still a 10.
You just heard a voice from across time. There are not a lot of people alive when you went by Tall Graham, and the last thing that you remember from Useful Scott was him being banished and not coming back. So, kind of difficult to put anything else into your mind. And you remember suddenly things flooding back to you. You remember Mudtown. You remember the Alchemist Association and the Dragonborn Mercenary. You can remember the Eladrin Meliora, who almost caused you to be apprehended and arrested before you managed to fight her off. You remember all of these things, but it couldn't be. Right? And suddenly the door opens as your friends, led by Cinder, discussing something about 5 silver, into the door and into the lounge. And you guys are now all together. You can see Nilly, who suddenly kind of awakens again, and Gunter, who is looking around very frantically.
Well, yes. Gunter, are you okay? Is there something wrong?
I thought I saw.
Did you
A
see one of our
ghost?
guests?
Did you see a ghost?
No, it was like a cockroach or something. You really
We
should.
don't have cockroaches in this establishment.
Oh, well, that's
The
what
gentle
you say,
repose
but,
may be old, but it is thoroughly well kept.
Well, not thoroughly enough, I would guess.
What is your wisdom score?
20.
Okay. Perhaps something came in. I'll make sure to clean extra well tonight. My apologies.
I will allow it.
You are
Well,
most generous, sir. Your next drink is on me.
Oh, thank you. And I'm gonna take 2 of the now, I guess.
There was 4 when they
remaining.
left.
So I guess I'll finish the last 2.
Okay. Go ahead and make a Constitution saving throw at advantage, because I believe you're at advantage against poisons, right?
Yes, that is correct. And that is Constitution.
Yeah.
That's a dirty 20.
Okay, so you pound these stouts down. The thick, fairly viscous liquid just pulling through. It burns a little bit. It is a highly alcoholic thing, and it does ease your mind. You can feel the tension and the frantic sort of nature of the experience you just had begin to die down a little bit. And you're feeling it. I mean, you're pretty drunk, but you're not. You haven't gone over the edge yet. You feel very warm. You feel a little fuzzy around the edges, but nothing too bad.
well, gang, how do we feel about staying here while we're in town? I mean, it's secluded enough, so we won't be bothered.
Is this where you guys are gonna be then?
I'm sorry?
Wait, what?
This where you're gonna stay then?
Well, where we would
Where are
all
you gonna stay?
Well, I think I might take a step out, go look for that Kenku, and if you're gonna be here, I'll meet up with you. But
Oh, I don't know if we'd
Give
stay
me
here
the-
right now, but I mean, stay here for
Yeah.
the evening when we eventually need to retire. It's, as far as I can remember, not too late.
I know the light is very confusing to you, Gunter, but
It's not the last.
it's only about 3 in the afternoon.
What are the
Okay.
chances?
I'm just saying, I don't know if I want to stay here.
What are the chances of being
Roaches and
disturbed?
ghosts.
Well, we haven't seen the ghosts yet, and I also haven't seen any roaches.
Gunter,
or anything.
make a persuasion check. And Allie, what'd you say? Sorry.
What are the chances of being disturbed while sleeping?
By
Roaches and ghosts.
There are no roaches here. Perhaps one stray one that your friend saw, and it will be
Ghost
taken
roaches?
very seriously. I have never seen a ghost roach, but if what you are asking is how likely are you to have a visitor in the night from one of our more permanent guests, quite likely.
Intrigued, but not good sleep.
Gunter, what'd you roll?
An 8.
Gunter, I would offer to lower the price, but I've already lowered it for your group to stay here. They were discussing a number of rooms, and so I imagine a bed will be available if you choose to change your mind.
Yeah, mine.
Okay, well,
She was there for that conversation between you and
Yeah. Nothing
I'm
makes sense to the group.
I'm gonna shop around for a bit. I think I will, keep my options open.
you are welcome to do so, but there is no place in the Undercity as fine as the Gentle Repose.
Well, we'll see about that.
I have high confidence that you will return.
Okay.
He doesn't seem bothered.
No,
Not ready to place
yeah.
it with Gunter right now. He's like kind of slurring, but he's
Yeah. I mean, you seemed kind of shook up by something anyways, so whatever that is, maybe you'll figure it out.
sure. So it is about 3 in the afternoon. It seems that Gunter is going to step out. Gunter, where are you heading?
I'm going back to that Kenku.
Okay, so you're going to try to go find Kevin.
I made a
Kenku.
mental note of
I
where
remember. Yeah,
Yeah.
you did.
I'm going
All
all
right.
the way back.
You're looking for Kenku. What are the rest of you guys doing?
I have to text you it.
Okay, go ahead and shoot me a text. Meanwhile, Heinrich, Shay, what are you guys doing?
Settling on a price. How many rooms? How many rooms would we actually need to accommodate everyone? Assuming that Gunter and Morwen do their usual foot of the bed thing.
You could get away with 3 rooms. 1,
3
2,
rooms?
3, 4.
So how does 2 silver per room for 3 rooms sound for the first night at least? We don't need the food in the morning. I'm sure we could.
If you can come across your own meals, I think 2 silver per person will be fine. Food is very expensive within the city. It is not the easiest thing to come by, and what is available to the poorer people is
Bloodworm.
less appetizing. It's less appetizing in the format it's available in than the actual worms themselves.
Hmm.
The worms are quite big. Each one is worth a fair amount of money.
Huh? How big are we talking? Enough to make a big stain on the ground, I guess.
Well, the largest in the hives can grow to be about 6 feet long.
That's a formidable foe.
They're not large in the strength sense, but they are quite large, and the ones that bird the others, they are not terribly common. So there are those in the Undercity who would happily steal those.
Mhm.
The farms themselves are well defended.
Hmm. Okay. Yeah, for the first night, why don't we do that while we get our bearings and renegotiate later if we stay more.
We'll call it a trial run.
That sounds, yes, that's an apt way to put it.
Very well. 3 rooms will give you the finest, of course, and then would you like the 2 closest to it?
That seems most appropriate, yes.
Very well. They will be made available. And should you require anything, I will be available for most of the night.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Cinder. I appreciate it.
Of course. And from within this pouch, she's already holding 2 of the keys, takes out a third and hands them over to you, Heinrich.
And take the keys, and I put them in my bag.
Should anything come up that you would need, any information, any service or good, please let me know, and I will put the Gentle Repose's full resources at your disposal. I will be at the
appreciate
desk. And she turns and makes her way out the door. You are
Wonderful.
all now left in the lounge.
So, like, what do we do now, guys?
Wow.
Gunter, did you already? I didn't know if you already left.
Oh, I don't think I'd left yet.
Okay.
Nope.
Okay.
I'm like, probably now that she's left, and be like, well, I'm gonna go take a look around, get a feel for the city.
Okay. Well, don't get into too much trouble, I suppose. Well, what did you have in mind, anyways? I kind of wanted to go check out the pillar of stairs.
I want to go find that Kenku.
Oh. Okay. The Kevin one?
Yeah, I want to go see what he was selling.
I suppose.
Some pretty good stuff.
I suppose for safety and numbers in an unknown place, I'll join.
Oh yeah, that's just what I need. Just babysitting. Okay, come on.
Kraddock turns. If it is agreeable to all of you, this disguise, and he holds his hands out to just, he's like covered in like this black kind of goop that's like slowly kind of melted down him. The feathers are sort of, he
Poor
looks
guy.
like he was in an oil spill, really.
I'm gonna like lick
Um,
my thumb and then try to touch it up a little bit on him.
Okay. You make one of the feathers a little bit more moist. But
Yeah.
he looks just dirty, and he says, "This is quite uncomfortable. I would like to remove it, and I will stay hidden, if that is wiser." And he's like, now that he's shed the cloak, like Gunter's old traveling cloak, you can see he's like holding his hands out, kind of just like trying not to have his body overlap. It does seem
Yeah.
as he move, you can hear like as it like detaches, and it's very,
Looks-
very sticky.
Yeah. I mean, Shay, I'm not sure. Yeah, you know what? Never mind. If you feel more comfortable staying here, that might be wiser. Shay, I don't know how you feel as well.
Holds his hand out for one of the keys.
This is rather oppressive, but I don't know.
Everything coming muffled from the top, wrapped around her.
Unfortunately, there's no cover of night down here that we could move around more easily. I feel it might be a more round-the-clock city.
For the time being, it might be in our best interest if Acrotic and I lay low.
Okay.
And only move
Well then,
when we need to.
that seems fair. And I hand the key to one of the rooms to Krodek, who had his hand out, you said?
Yeah, he takes it and he pinches it kind of by the base. And you can see stiffly he kind of begins to walk towards the stairs. And you see every step now that he's like in the light, there's like a little of like coal dust that comes off of him from the stuff that you applied. But he very uncomfortably makes his way towards the room.
Let me know if you see any ghosts.
He stops, like you can see just elements of his wing around the corner. And then just the beak as his head turns, you would imagine.
Are there any showers in the rooms? Was there any mention of that? Did she?
You would imagine that there is probably a bath there.
Okay.
You did not see at the very end of the other. I mean, yeah, he didn't see anything, so
Okay.
no real idea. But he makes his way. He stops and turns, and you can hear him, Morwen, respond to you. Okay, and just makes his way back up and disappears out of sight. Shay, are you following?
I am.
Okay, so you make your way out, kind of following, and you can see as he is walking, he's just kind of shaking his head, still a little bit confused about Morwen and maybe how logical this person is. Questioning some of the choices that he is currently making, but he is following the path that he sees before.
His heart.
Sure.
Gunter.
His love for Gunter.
Gunter, are you heading out for Kenku?
Yeah, I'm gonna go find Kevin.
Okay, so
Yeah.
you head out the front door. Morwen and what are you doing? Because it's just kind of you and the sleeping Nilly Winslow.
What am I doing?
Yeah, Heinrich
Oh,
followed
I
Gunter.
texted you.
Yeah, I'm going with
Oh,
him.
okay. Cool.
Oh, you're doing something secret.
You're up to that.
Oh.
Go ahead and
Do the
roll-
huge.
yeah, do the huge. So for those of you tuning in, who have not tuned in when we play in person, typically Ali has had the exact same note card for the entire campaign.
It's literally a
It's gone
year-old
on.
index card.
Yeah, we've had like 50 plus sessions that you've used the same index card for.
It's just
illegible.
turning into like
Yeah.
turning into like cloth. This
So-
point.
It's fuzzy.
What happens now is Ali writes something on the can't read it, and so she texts me anyways. And so now we're just skipping the middleman, and it's getting texted straight to me. So there, when the players do things that they don't want other people to know about, we pass notes. And there are a bunch of reasons for doing this, but most of it is just silliness. Lots of silliness. Okay, what'd you roll?
17.
Okay.
No, sorry,
so-
16.
Okay. Gunter, your passive perception 17, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Gunter,
Wait, no, I'm sorry. I'm using my old sheet by accident. It is actually it's 18.
okay.
Oh, wait a second. What is passive perception?
It is.
Guys, it's our first time playing.
We've never done this before.
We're gonna say it's 17
Five
until you
plus eight.
figure it out.
Yeah.
Is it plus proficiency? 8?
Matt, we've been playing D&D
dude.
for over a year.
It's 10 plus your modifier, and if you're proficient in perception, plus your proficiency.
Oh, then that's 19.
What?
Okay.
Jesus.
Okay. He's a cleric, man, you know? Okay, so,
No, he's just two walking eyeballs at that point.
I mean,
And
he
they're
is so
looking in two different
shriveled,
directions. So yeah, actually.
Why
That's
is
ambitious.
Gunter?
Okay, so Gunter and Heinrich, you exit and walk out into the darkness and the sort of just emptiness around the Gentle Repose. And Gunter, you had made a very careful note of where you saw Kevin the Kenku head off to. and you saw that he had kind of wandered in the direction, roughly, of the Goblin Gables.
Hmm.
And so you and Heinrich begin to approach, and you walk through for about 15 minutes until you come across just off to the right and just at the edge of your vision the statue that you would recognize as the one, or you wouldn't recognize, but Heinrich, you would recognize as the one that Nilly Wenzel had kind of touched as he led you guys over to the Gentle Repose.
Yeah.
So you have a rough idea as to where you're going.
Yeah.
Gunter, you know exactly where you're headed. You
I'm gonna touch it.
okay? You go through and you touch it, and
I'm just kind of like mimicking him out of like,
it is incredibly smooth. First, there is no real porous material. There is no grit or grain as you're used to in worked rock.
mm-hmm.
Gunter,
I would like to stone con.
I was waiting
go,
for that.
go ahead and cut that stone. Yeah, you certainly can.
That is history. That's 16.
Okay. Again, much like your previous attempt at stone cutting the statue, or a statue like this, it's weird. It's not a stone you've seen. There's no real sign of composite rock that would indicate it's a sediment. And you think, okay, well, we saw that lava on the way in, igneous rock, but there's no gloss. There's no real sheen to it. It doesn't have the sort of glass-like breaks that you'd expect in something like that. Hard to place. You can't think, and you've lived a long time, you can't think of any stone that looks like this. What I will say is, as you touch it, Heinrich,
Mm-hmm.
something about it is almost kind of off-putting. The texture, not unlike chalk in a way, in that it feels as if it kind of comes away on your. If you rub them, nothing comes off. It's
Mm-hmm.
a little unsettling, but aside from that, you don't really notice much.
Okay.
You begin to walk, and as you do, another 10 minutes goes by, and you begin to become aware of the fact that amongst all of this, and Heinrich, you, I think, imagine would get drawn in very quickly, but there is this kind of dull beating of little drums. And as you draw closer to this dark shape that begins to loom out, the pillar that has been carved away and sort of, it looks almost naturally eroded, but you can see little fires kind of here and there where the stone has been worn away, and little decks have been built. And you can now see these dark shapes of goblins kind of moving here and there. And you imagine, Gunter, from where you are, so there's maybe like 100 feet until you get there, but you're roughly in the space that you imagine Kenku Kevin has gone to. And around you, it has transitioned from this very smooth floor to an area where there are remains of other structures, little bits of wood and metal that are twisted and crumpled together in places. You can see areas where some have actually begun to be built, but just have never really been finished. There are areas now that you can see carved into the ground, almost look like little, Middle Earth kind of hobbit holes, little mounds of earth and areas that goblins may have dug into. And you can't really tell if they're occupied or not. They seem a little bit fresher. And here and there, you're beginning to see that there are like little shadows moving in the distance around you. Unclear if they've taken notice of you.
Okay.
Is there anyone actually following us?
Make a
Make a-
perception check.
Kind of nudge Gunter and be like, keep your eyes open.
I look around. I
Looking
always
around,
keep my eyes open.
you can see.
Perception is not good. It's just the,
Okay.
we'll go with passive 11. I'm
Sure, we'll go.
Doing
We'll
my
go
best.
with passive 19 for. Heinrich, looking around, you see just shapes, amorphous, and every now and then it looks almost as if shadows kind of detach and reattach,
Mhm.
and you can't quite tell, is it tricks of the eyes or is it like people or things moving.
Mhm.
Gunter, you can see very clearly that there are goblins, not here and there you'll see just edges and flashes of where that don't seem to be taking too much notice yet. But you then kind of turn and you can see it's because they're paying attention to something else behind. And looking, you can see way back there is just the edge of like a black tail that suddenly twitches out of
God
sight.
damn it.
And you would recognize that as Morwood following you at a distance. But aside from that, you don't see anybody else following you yet.
Okay.
That being said, can I check to see if anyone's following me, following them?
Make a perception check.
17.
Okay. You don't notice that you have been noticed necessarily. But in this moment, as you kind of crouch down and look behind you, your tail flicking up as you do, you don't see anything. You look behind, you can see just crumbles of little structures that you passed. You can see the remnants of perhaps what was maybe a well. It has that little kind of dowel across it, and maybe someplace that there could have been a bucket attached. Now just kind of a crumbled ruin, but you don't see a person. You don't see any moving things. What are you guys doing?
I think I'm gonna cast Locate Creature to find Kevin.
Okay, sure. Read for me what that does.
Describe or name a creature that is familiar to you. You sense the direction to the creature's location as long as that creature is within 1,000 feet of you.
Sure. Okay.
If the creature is moving, you know the direction of its movement.
Very good. So as you cast the spell, and what does it look like when you cast Locate?
I'm just like, where'd that Kenku get off to?
You see Gunter just start looking around, and as you do, well, first of all, okay, as you do, you can see suddenly your attention. It feels almost as if like this powerful kind of hand, these strong fingers suddenly like pull at your brain almost and direct your attention sharply upwards. And as you do, you can see almost like the stones themselves are shifting. You see this sort of almost an outline of a shape. Like the stones themselves, very like Harry Potter-esque, almost seem to kind of bubble out as it moves to the left. And you can see what you would imagine maybe 300 feet up within the pillar itself. Kevin the Kenku, or this Kenku named Kevin, or whatever you would like to call it.
All right. I'm gonna make my way up there. I'm like, oh,
Okay. Worth noting that this pillar is just covered in goblins. But you begin to make your way over.
Gunter, where are you going?
what?
Where are you going?
I want to go buy stuff from that Kenku.
You're heading towards all the goblins.
What? Oh, what? The gaggle of goblins at the gable?
Yeah, well, we know they're not. I mean, they're probably pretty rowdy. I mean,
It'll be fine. We've dealt with goblins before.
And Gunter's
Just-
kind of
it's less-
weaving a little bit.
yeah, it's less of a fight, more just drawing attention or, causing a scene. Or we just got
Oh.
here.
Okay, I see what you're saying. And I'm going to turn around, disguise kit, and then turn back towards Heinrich. With
Okay, and what?
uh,
Make a performance check first of all. At disadvantage because you're trying to on the spot disguise your
Turn into a
identity.
goblin.
With your beard
From
up.
goblins
your
who,
face.
as far as you probably know, have not met you before, but
yeah, I'm
Yeah.
trying to make myself look like an old goblin. Like, yeah. Tie the,
okay,
tie the
Can I-
beard up on the
can I
side
just-
to make it look like a little hair tuft.
sure. Roll a performance check at disadvantage.
Can I just, while he's doing that, gauge the distance between where we are and where he pointed?
Yeah.
That's an 8.
I laugh out loud as I turn my gaze
You
to
see
just gauge the distance.
Gunter just go, "Oh, I see what you're saying," and he turns around, and you can see it's like a cartoon. Like his elbows are wagging all around.
Right, there's just like one of
Like-
those weird, like swirling smoke clouds around
A
his
little-
face. Like,
little mustache, like, off, and he grabs the mustache and pulls it back into the club. But as he turns back around, you can see it looks like the Urukai, like he just took like a hand of like green powder and just smeared it across his face. You can see he's tied his beard for some reason up. And so he now has like the forked beard that then just leads to a point that just sticks out in like a tuft of unmanageable hair.
Congratulations, Gunter. You
You
look
can still see he hasn't done
somehow
anything
worse
to
than
his
before.
long kind of loose skin on his neck. So it's just like dwarf skin over this like smeared green face with the hair tied up. Doesn't look it's frightening.
It looks fucking racist, is what you're describing.
A little, yeah.
So how far?
It's almost bad enough though that it wouldn't really be considered racist because
Okay.
you wouldn't
Yeah.
think that this was somebody trying to be a goblin. You would say that this is probably somebody who needs to see like a doctor or
Well, but his eyes aren't too far apart right now. I think he's healthy enough.
yeah, he looks pretty drunk.
So how far is the distance? And I guess I would also ask Gunter, where can you point it out? And
It's right up there.
then
And
You
using
can
that.
see so looking
Heading
at
up there.
using some of the little areas that are carved out as like a judge, you can see like, okay, that's roughly a floor. That's roughly a floor. It would be like on the it would be on the fourth story of the structure if it were like a traditional building.
Okay, what are we talking? Footage distance estimation.
Maybe something like that.
Sorry, how many?
And then 80 or 95 feet up
Mhm.
and about 100 feet away from.
Okay. Is there a safe landing zone that's
Make a perception
Not-
check.
okay? I'm just trying to.
Safe is a strong word. But
I
yeah,
know.
Make a perception check.
12. Better than
12?
my passive.
Oh,
You
we
can
can
see
see.
you can you see places that you could potentially
Looking for rough movement.
sure.
Any place there
Um,
not
Looking up at the top, you can see that there are not on the floor that Gunter pointed to, but below it. There's a large area that actually has about 20 feet of stone that's been removed.
Mhm.
And you can see the floor that this would be on, kind of at the top area of it. Then the floor below it is mostly what's exposed.
Mhm.
There is on that area a little bit of light from a fire. You can see it is over this large, dented, and largely rusted cauldron that is being held aloft by something that you cannot quite see. It's a chain attached to something.
Okay.
And here and there, you can see like little bits of elbows and knees. There are goblins around it. Appears
Okay.
to be like a little campsite of some kind. But yeah, you see that.
Anything where there isn't movement? Any like empty spaces?
Hard to make out from down here.
damn
And
it.
within the dark, I mean, there's any number of places. It's a massive structure.
Yeah. All right.
And it stretches
Well,
out into darkness. I mean,
then I'm gonna switch my mental strategy and just take very careful visual notes of where we currently are instead.
okay, you look around and it's. What are you trying to remember? What are you trying to do?
I'm remembering this place that we're standing, this area, and like make it like I'm trying to bookmark it in my knowledge of the terrain and the area of the city.
Okay, so you look around, you make a pretty good mental note.
Okay, cool.
While this is happening, would also like to take a chance to just see what else is happening, not with that tower, but just like
in the area.
in the town. Yeah. Since
Okay,
I'm
make
like a
make a
distance
perception
away
check.
from them, that's not really my focus.
Sure.
I'm walking. I'm making my way up.
Okay.
Making his way uptown.
It's a 24.
He's
Up
walking
towards the
fast.
goblins.
With a 24, you can see. First of all, you see Gunter fully turn, like almost facing you, and then he just makes the shittiest disguise that you have ever seen. Like very quickly thrown together.
I mean, it was an 8, okay? I've rolled one.
Yeah, but you're drunk. So
That's a Colteron 8, dude. That's
It's-
not
it's
very
a-
high on the list.
yeah, it's a wet 8.
Well, then that means it's dark. They can't see.
Yeah,
So
creatures that live underground and never
you see Gunter
sunlight
just
can't see underground.
you watch as he just makes a mess of himself. You also see that the distance between the goblins who are kind of here and there doing things within the tower, immediate space around it, it looks as if the movement kind of shifts. And all of a sudden you can see kind of in the areas around where Heinrich is standing, off to the left and kind of in front of them, they seem to be like one or two goblins now who are beginning to kind of form almost a group. And as you watch, you can see they are watching now Gunter, and then you watch as Gunter begins to kind of walk off towards the tower. But your attention goes around to other things that are happening here and there. You see, walking away from the Goblin Gables and towards what you guys have been told is the Pillar of Stairs. This one goblin who, for a goblin, real round. This rotund goblin, still only about 3'4", 3'5", but real portly. And he's walking what looks like maybe two almost dogs, except they're not dogs. They're very pale, and as one kind of turns its head, you can see no eyes to these creatures. They're chitinous, kind of. They have this very like plated exterior, almost exoskeleton. But he is walking them on leashes as if they're dogs. And those go off towards the Pillar of Scale. You would see off in the direction that you guys originally came from the Pillar of the People. There is maybe not a commotion, but you get the sense that right around now is kind of when people are eating, and so you are smelling more of this kind of dark iron aroma, some kind of spices, perhaps. What you would imagine, a lot of blood.
Mhm.
You know what?
Gross.
I'm going to change my direction, and whichever, I don't know, pub seems busiest, I'm gonna go there.
Okay.
I'm gonna get a beer and eavesdrop on the hot goss.
Okay, so you're looking for the hot goss around Goblin.
Yeah, I'm looking for like chatty Cathy's, and
Okay.
Chatty
You
Cathy
know.
hot goss.
yeah,
Okay. 1 second,
I'll
pull up my notes
follow
on that.
silently right behind Gunter, just to
Dark City.
be there.
Okay. So Morwen, go ahead and make a survival check. Gunter, you're not stealthing at all. Right? You're just kind of walking up in your disguise.
Yeah, I'm walking up. I'm like, I'm walking with the attitude that I belong there. Okay.
Okay.
Sure. You're walking with a little swagger, is what you're
He
saying.
belongs here.
Belongs here, kid.
Like these goblins, they don't faze me. I'm going to see the Kenku. I'm going to get the Kenku.
Yeah, why not? What'd you roll for a survival check?
15.
Okay.
Do I see
so
15 chatty Cathy's?
you don't see 15 chatty Cathy's. You begin to walk towards the pillar. Take you a little bit to get to like an inn. You're gonna have to walk for probably about 15 minutes. You remember in walking by the Pillar of the People, the sort of entryway that you guys came through was right near this large pillar that was heavily populated. And you would remember that there is a bar is a strong word for it, I guess, but there was sort of this almost like a mud hut with this very misshapen some kind of fibrous material and clay or mud that's been packed to a ceiling. The doors were carved out, so kind of round almost. You can see, you smelled a lot of smells, and you could hear chattering, although not in a language that you speak, but it had the sound of an inn. That would be kind of the only structure that you pass that would resemble an inn to you. So you begin to head off in that direction. Gunter, striding up, you become aware of the fact that there are shadows moving around at your sides, at your backs. You kind of glance ahead, and you can see now towards the one torch that is burning at the base of the Goblin Gables. Everything else lit through small fires or little lanterns. This is like the one brighter area that kind of draws you towards it. And there is an entryway to this area. You can see outside of it maybe 14 or 15 goblins, some seated in these really chairs. Most are sitting on crates or barrels. There's a few standing, all of them armed.
Okay.
3 or 4 of them stand up, and one of them approaches you and begins to speak in a language that does anybody here speak Undercommon?
I do when I cough and cast tongues.
And I'm standing kind of close behind him, silently, like trying to be imposing, basically.
What are the components to tongues?
Verbal and a small clay model of a ziggurat.
But you have a
Well,
whole,
you
you
have
have a
your
focus.
symbol.
But I have the
So here's the thing.
Yeah.
You would remember that magic is very much not something that the goblins here love. You were warned by Master Gamble that typically their crimes become a little bit more violent when magic is. So I imagine you're trying to do this pretty stealthily. That's the reason you're doing it as a cough.
Yeah.
Go ahead and make a performance check.
Well, it's also the verbal component is.
Yeah. So make a performance check. You're trying to hide the spell as you cast.
Nice. That's an 18.
Okay. Heinrich, even you kind of just hear Gunter cough.
Mhm.
And then this creature just begins to chitter at you, and you don't really understand what it's saying. But Gunter, it converts from this kind of high pitched kind of like this sharp thing to all of a sudden this voice that just sounds like it's speaking common almost. What's your business at the Goblin Gables?
I'm come to see Kevin the Kenku. I want to go check out his stuff. He got some good stuff I wanted to see. What's
Yeah.
your name?
It doesn't matter what my name is, but Kevin's really busy right now. And this
Oh,
isn't
well,
a
he
place
told-
for your type to be pink skin and all that.
What are you
There's plenty of
implying?
places. What I'm implying, and you can see now there's like 2 or 3 of them that are behind standing, and you become aware of the fact as you see this motion, there are many more at your side. I mean, you're looking at all told, give or take maybe 3-4 dozen goblins. But this one takes another step towards you. What I'm implying is that you're not welcome.
Well,
And if you
why
don't
would
like
Kevin tell me to come see him?
Now you're seeing all of the goblins. There's nobody. And this is kind of imposing around you. But Kevin is busy. If you want to come and meet him, we can take you piece.
What was that? I didn't catch that.
Actually, you cut out.
And now did I actually cut out?
Yeah. You said
You
piece
said
by piece. I got you.
If you want to take him, we can take you there piece by piece.
Just the one piece is fine.
I mean, I'm not hearing any of this. I'm just hearing Gunter chittering like them right now, right?
Yeah, but you're seeing. I mean, now like these.
I know what
goblins
the
are
situation is. I just don't know how poorly he's doing.
Yeah, I would say though, knowing Gunter and being in these situations and seeing how the crowd is reacting.
Messaging to Gunter like, all right, let's leave. This is not a good.
Like, whoa. What do I need to do to get you to let me see Kevin?
You could see one of the other. I don't know what that was either.
That was a really weird noise. Yeah.
It was. You can see now one of the other goblins. This one you can see like parts of his ear have been like either bitten or rotted away, and it's kind of mended, so it almost looks burned. You can see this little goblin is wearing a pale yellow shirt that is kind of faded and stained. No pants. Just
My
kind of
kind
like
of
walks
people.
up with like a little bit of a limp and whispers something into his ear. And the goblin that's been talking to you, you can see there is this kind of dumb look for a second, and then this smile just kind of like spreads across his face.
I smile back. I'm like,
Ooh, it's a rough smile. Well, if you're looking to trade, maybe we could work something. You see, something's kind of gone missing from and you're still just hearing this like
Nothing.
screech. This creature is just screeching, and you're hearing like little bits of laughter now kind of come from around the crowd.
I messaged to Gunter like, what's going on? What's happening right now?
relax. I'm handling.
No, I'm not. No, there's no vocal component. I'm just saying it to you mentally, so you can say it
Yeah,
back.
but Gunter
easily.
doesn't know that, so he just speaks out loud. But he
All right.
He's done that before.
God, I might just turn and walk away.
There's something that's gone missing of ours. We know where it is. We just can't quite access it.
Yeah, I said the mark.
Yeah, it's not really a mark. It's a little bit bigger than that.
What's so what are we talking? You want me to go get it for you? I'm assuming.
Yeah, it's a little bit more involved, but look. And he turns over to you, Heinrich, and you don't understand this, but you can see the goblin looks. Can you understand me? And you just hear this kind of like loud, kind of abrupt, very consonant heavy sound.
I just kind of like shrug and point back to him.
Sorry,
Back to
he's
Gunther.
a little slow. I gotta help him.
All right. I mean, I
I'm
don't.
babysitting him right now.
As long as you can do what we need to do, I don't really care.
Yeah, he'll help. He'll come along.
So
He does whatever I tell him.
I kind of intimate what's sort of going on. It's like, and I point for myself to him and just kind of like thumbs up.
he's like not really paying attention, but you can hear now. Heinrich, there is like laughter, little goblin voices all around the darkness and in front of you.
Sure.
But Gunter, he turns back to you. So the chief, he sends people out. We still try to get things from up above. A lot of good stuff to steal if you know where to look.
Oh, well, I know where to look.
Well, the people he sent up, all gone. And one of them we sent with something that we need back.
All right.
If you can get it, you need to go through the pillar of stairs, through a large blockade of the stone guard. We have some people there too. They can help you get in. The stone guard are there. The bearded consortium is there. You can have, and you would hear actually in common bearded consortium because there is no goblins don't have beards, so there's no word for beard.
Sure.
But it's gonna be a hard job to get in.
All right. And what are we getting?
When you get this, it's a dagger.
Okay.
It's a small dagger. It's a goblin dagger. You don't need it. You don't.
Well, why do
When
you
you-
want?
It's a family item. Okay. It's something that's important to us. It doesn't matter if you want to talk to Kevin. You got to get the key. I mean the dagger.
I figured that. Okay. All right. So I gotta go get you a stick and dagger to go talk to Kevin. I don't even know what he's got. Well, you gotta sweeten the pot for me here.
Make a persuasion check.
I'm just imagining all of this too with his like shitty face paint going on, the beard tied up on top of his
Yeah,
head.
for whatever reason, like that. They're laughing at you a lot more than they're laughing.
Sure, no. I'm glad to help.
That's 17.
Look, I really already feel like I'm giving you a pretty good deal. But I'll tell you what. You're clearly not from around here. You're not a cold and you're skinny. So you're here for something. Nobody's coming to Cold Toronto. What are you looking for?
You know, a little bit of this. Whatever the city's got to offer, if you catch my meaning.
All right. You're somebody looking for a little bit of money. You're looking to make your fortune, make ends meet, right?
You could say that, be it monetary or other means.
What if I told you, within the Dark Hive, there is a table at which you might gamble, and this table might have some very predictable patterns.
I would be intrigued.
So maybe those patterns might become known to you if you bring back the key.
Well, now you're talking. All right, so I gotta get this key dagger.
It's just a dagger. Don't worry about the key part. I got a speech impediment.
Okay, so I get this dagger key, and then we talk about it. Okay.
Every time that you say dagger, he like looks over at kind of nervously. But so
You tell
bring that
Kevin.
back.
Yeah, you tell Kevin I'll see him soon. And I turn around.
Okay. And as you turn around, he just says, "We try not to tell Kevin anything because he says it right back. It's pretty annoying."
Yeah, all right. I didn't hear what he said. I go.
I'm just turning around and following
Yeah.
Okay.
and giving like a courteous bow because that's just kind of the role that I fit.
He just bares his teeth at you, and there's like a
I'm
lot
totally
of
performing the stupid like
I
gotcha
know,
yeah.
assistant, you know.
I'm gonna hit
Yeah, I'm
Heinrich.
performing
don't-
Peebo.
Come on, don't do that. Come on.
And so you and Gunter make your way away. Now, burning, you can see there is at least like 40 or 50 goblins that have now gathered. You can see little tiny goblin bows and little makeshift spears and things. You can see one, and actually, you kind of like almost heard in the background, a little bit too intent on the conversation to really notice, but you heard this kind of scraping. You can see a goblin who pulled like a full size long sword that he can't really wield, but he's kind of lugged it
It's a
over.
claymore for him.
Yeah, no, it's bigger than a claymore for him. This thing, like, you definitely can't.
Mhm.
This is like a showpiece, really. But you know, they've gathered. But as you make your way out, you can see this is a very large faction within the Undercity. And in the pillar, in the Goblin Gables, you can see there is like stretching all the way back, little tiny fires here and there. This is not just like a goblin band. This is within itself like its own city. But you make your way, having created some kind of a deal with a goblin.
Nice.
While you're doing that, Morwen, you make your way over to a tavern that is called the Gourmands Kitchen. And as you get there, it is this sort of clay hut, long, and it's not regularly shaped. It's almost like an 8 that's been warped in on its side.
Like
So
Virgil's
there's,
artwork.
Like what?
Virgil's artwork.
It's a little. You can actually tell it's a building better than
Okay.
Virgil's artwork. But you can see within this place, there is like a door, but it's not really. It's not a good door, so you can see basically straight through it. There's like 3 planks of wood that are held together by doors. It's really meant to keep people out, but not really to create any privacy. And it is warm within the space. There is a crackling fire which provides light. It's clearly not intentionally for light, but it provides it, and so fairly easy to see. There are maybe like 4 or 5 people at this 8-seat bar. The bar itself is not straight. It is also made out of clay and kind of curves with the building. And behind that, you can see there is a like a not. He looks like an upside down triangle, real broad shoulders that go to a skinny waist. He looks kind of like, if you've seen Coraline, like upstairs, like the Russian gymnast guy.
Oh yeah,
With the
that's
train.
Spadania Coraline.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Bobinsky?
Yeah, kind of like.
Okay. I don't know where that came from. It just
I
ran.
don't either. I don't really remember if
All
that's
right.
Yeah, what the fuck? Okay.
Watch
Sounds
this movie
sounds
every
right.
day.
Yeah, right. Back to it.
But you can see what looks like probably a Colcherom dwarf. At one point, old enough so that his hair is gray, so you can't really, some of the more distinguishing features you can't really make out. But he's sort of leaning on the counter, and he's talking to probably what would be somewhat shocking to you, this sort of wearing normal commoner clothes, but his arms very scaly and green, and you can see the interior of them kind of a softer, almost white. But it is a lizard man. This individual with a tail with kind of spines that come off of it. And you can see he is holding this large, perhaps this long, maybe 2 feet long in total, sort of worm-like creature. You can see little legs that seem to sprout out, but you notice not legs, just cilia, and it's not just in one spot. They're just kind of everywhere. And so even as he holds it, you can see it's kind of like pulling at his trying to get free. But as the establishment, or the one that's behind the counter, just kind of nods, the lizard man just takes a big bite out of this thing, and you can see all of the little cilia kind of go straight before just wilting. Lots of this kind of blood spill across this lizard man. He doesn't seem to really take notice. Within the space, there's also a dwarf And then far down at the other end of the bar, because it isn't a huge bar, but you can see what looks like 2 half-elves.
I go in.
Okay. As you walk in, you can see the person behind looks at you, and his dwarven features kind of relax and soft. This is a guy who looks very friendly. He stands up and just gestures to the entirety of this place. And as you enter, you can see in the actual stone wall, there have been like built-in cabinets from clay. And so there are like little plates and things that seem to all be probably homemade, although there is a conformity to it. It's kind of hard to tell. They look purposefully kind of rustic, we'll say. And then there is like just a single table. Most of the space is taken up
Sorry, by what?
by the bar.
Oh, okay.
And then the dwarf behind just gestures. Welcome to the Gourmand. Why don't you take a
Thank
seat? We can
you.
get you something. You looking to eat? You looking to drink?
Both.
Ah, you came to the right place then, didn't you? Go ahead and take a seat. And he gestures. There are 3 open seats.
Is there one? I'll take the one closest to the elf.
Okay, so you kind of walk towards the back and sit next to. It is a.
Wait, is this like? Is it all 3 in one row, or is it like spotted, or like separated?
So the bar itself is shaped kind of almost like a B or like a bow, I guess.
Okay.
And so the seats are roughly uniform, although the 2 elves look as if because they've kind of moved their seats, they're kind of off and talking to each other. But there is a seat right next to them open if you want to take it.
Well, is there a seat open next to that? Like, is there 2 empty seats next to each other? Like, if I sit
No.
right next to them, are they going to be like, yo?
You'll be sitting between them and between the door.
Okay, that's a good seat. I take it.
Okay. As you do, you can see the first elf turns over and look. She's very beautiful, definitely half elf.
Yeah,
but
she's beautiful, but
long-
like not that beautiful.
She's
Yeah.
beautiful, but you can see that the ears don't quite go as far as you're used to. You remember Ariadne's ears, very severe in how pointed they were. These a little bit rounder. There is kind of a softness to the face that many elves lack. But you do see these brown tattoos, 2 bars that go across the cheek and then lead into one central one that goes down and disappears beneath what looks like a fairly nice kind of tunic that is made out of a darker material and seems to have these almost pearlescent buttons that go down. She looks at you and you can read kind of annoyance in her eye, but then she turns back to her companion. And getting close and being somebody who is fairly amorous in her relationships with others, this is a date that you're sitting next to. The dwarf on your left turns and just gives you a big smile. He's missing 3 teeth.
I give him a
Big,
nice
dark
toothy
beard.
grin with my like little cat fangs.
And he turns to you.
Oh, I thought you were being like, ah!
No,
What is it?
all kinds of folk turning up in places like this. How are you? And you can see behind the counter, the gentleman says, well, now just a minute. Let me get you started with something before you have a conversation. What can I get you? You said something to eat, something to drink.
Yeah, can I get a beer and a nice chopped salad?
What's a salad?
Dressed leaves.
Well,
What have you got to offer?
you want something a little bit more vegetarian then, yeah?
Little on the lighter side.
Little on the lighter side. We can get you suited with something just fine. Give me a moment.
No
And
bugs.
He stops then and goes, oh, we can still do something then. Just give me a moment. And turns and disappears into this back room. Meanwhile, the dwarf turns and gives you kind of like a anyways, as I was saying, all kinds of folks show up in this kind of a place. What brings you here to the Gourmands kitchen?
Smelled good.
Ha! And he smiles and kind of looks over, and the lizard man, like cheeks full of this like bloody sort of thing that's kind of limp over his hand, gives you a grin, little bits of the coming out between the sharp, pointy lizard teeth.
I give him that like you see a coworker in the hall smile. Like,
And then the dwarf's face kind of comes in and places that sight. This is one of the finest places to eat a bloodworm in all the Undercity.
oh,
If you have to eat it, this is
lovely.
the place to do it.
Okay. What if you don't have to eat it? Is this still the place to do it? The eating?
Well, if you don't have to do it, then I guess you wouldn't need to eat. But I don't really
Hey,
understand what that
you're
means.
smarter than you look.
He looks very confused. And you can see like the kind of discolored area around his beard. This is somebody who drinks a lot. And he is probably well in his cups already at about 3:30 in the afternoon. But now he turns and you can see he's trying to figure out what you just told him.
So
And-
what's your name?
Oh, okay. He turns back and he says, one second. He gives you like a name's Avric.
That's a wonderful name.
Ah, it's a birthday gift from my parents. What about you?
Oh, I never got a birthday gift from my parents.
That's very sad.
Thanks
Is it
for
gonna
asking. Thanks for bringing it up.
Make a. What are you trying to do to this guy? You're just trying to make him sad?
No. I'm Morwen. Nice to meet you.
He looks a little sad now, but he nods and sets down his beer and holds out a hand. Red is a beer in front of you, and the.
I give out a soft paw.
Okay. He shakes it. Taking your hand away, his hand is a little sticky, but he smiles and looks down. You can see in front of you has been a wooden tray with what looks at first almost like a pile of very, very thinly worn pieces of flat stone. But as a smell hits you, it is this kind of rich umami scent of like a mushroom. Definitely, like these are like really thin sliced tops of mushrooms, perhaps. And
Ooh.
within it, you can see there is what looks at first almost like a very unpleasant, black, oily kind of sauce. But there is a scent coming up
Suze.
that reminds you. Huh? Oh,
no.
Suze?
no. So the trenchers at Sue's are pretty good, but this is the smell from this is almost of like a floral kind of scent. The smell and the look do not match up at all. And it is a little jarring. And it also does look like you're eating oil-covered rice. Kind of. Do you take a
Better
bite?
than the worms. Oh, hell yeah. Oh, do I take it? Oh, yeah. Well,
Yeah.
does
So
it
eating
smell
it-
like worms?
No.
Okay,
Smells
okay.
like
Yeah, I take a
flowers.
bite.
But
Oh.
taking a bite, it is this, and again, the smell, the appearance, and the taste jarringly different. But the first thing that you taste is this kind of earthy mushroom that then bleeds into almost like a licorice kind of through the nose smell. It's not unpleasant. It's not familiar to you in any way. Different. The texture is very nice, and you can imagine that this is probably, it has the taste that it is fancy and probably like a higher end thing, although it doesn't taste good per se. Very perfumey, and he watches the whole time as you eat, kind of waiting for your does the door.
Oh my god, this is so good. Wow.
Oh, wonderful to hear. We aim to please. And he turns and kind of goes down to two elves who are on a date.
Wait, where's my beer?
You set the beer down in front of you.
Oh, okay. Wait. So is there two dwarfs? There's a dwarf that's
Yep.
the bartender and the dwarf.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. So I'm gonna turn to Avric and like cheers him.
Okay, he picks up his beer off the counter and just kind of collides it with you. I have to say, I haven't seen anybody who looks like you around here. What brings
Yeah,
you?
no, few do. Yeah.
What brings you to the Undercity?
Adventure.
Well, it is a dangerous place, I suppose. That's you a mercenary or somebody looking for?
Neither. I'm just looking for a good time. Can you what can you tell me about this place? I'm new. It's my first day. I just, wandered.
Well, if it's your first time, I mean, what kind of good time are you looking for? Are you a gambler? Are you a enjoyer of some of the more intimate
What-
things.
What do you do here?
Me? And he kind of gestures to this place. I come to the Gourmands and I drink.
Do you live here?
Not in the restaurant.
Where do you live?
Jesus Christ.
You can see now he begins to kind of smooth out his beard. This is going pretty quick. Not far if you want to.
Excuse me?
Buy your meal, of course. And well, are we going? Or
I just got my beer. I'm not going anywhere.
you can see he
You are-
turns again, and there is this confusion across.
There's confusion across my face too.
You're sending.
You said it's a real mixed signals. here. Meanwhile,
I don't think you know what you're saying. I
You
really
and Craddock, Shay, you follow Craddock up to this room. He unlocks it, and you enter the space. You can see Craddock now shedding the tunic, which is now basically ruined. It was once this beautiful orange with intricate zingy patterns that run across, very soft and still of an orange fabric. It would be hard to see the intricacy for somebody who doesn't really know what it is. But now just ruined, smudged in like coal and like these weird dyes that Gunter carries around on him for some reason. And begins to try to clean himself off. Fairly unsuccessfully. It's slow going for sure.
Offer to
But as this
help him.
happens, you can see he pauses for a moment. Sky Sister, what do you think of Morwen?
My ears perk up. I don't know why, but they do.
That one of the
She
magical tattoo
is
covers.
earnest, if inconsistent.
When you say inconsistent, what do you mean?
She
I can
I
hear
know
you
this
do
is in
that.
regards to your profession earlier. She is a good friend and has been the entire time I've known her. It's hard to track what she's doing or thinking.
This is something that I have noticed. She is confusing and often says one thing and means another. And I do not understand why she wouldn't speak of her intentions and attempt to act on them much quicker.
Yes. Well, to my understanding, she grew up in a much more different environment than we did.
One thing I have learned, Shay, in being a scout and being sent out by Era, now far and wide across Dominion, as things have unfolded and as we attempt to understand them, there is much to love about adventure. Beyond the snowy walls of them, there is much beauty.
Yes.
There is something in me that wishes to understand how the chaos can be so. And so perhaps understanding Morwen is a way to
Perhaps.
Do you think it a bad idea?
I think it won, while not bad, will not be easy.
Do you think one other element that has confused me is that Gunter has been telling me to pursue this, but I am unsure as to the relationship between Gunter and Morwen.
Yeah, couldn't say.
They seem to reside together most nights.
Yeah, they do.
Oh God.
Honestly, I can't even really recall when that started. It's been a long time.
I owe Gunter a great debt. He fixed my wing when nobody could, and so I have
Wingman.
followed his instruction, but
I think you'll
I
find
am
also for Gunter that he is another agent of chaos.
The best
Perhaps
conversation our group has had.
even more so than Morwen, I would take his advice with a grain of salt.
Oh my god, we're gonna ruin Croc.
speaking of Gunter.
He's gonna get like a punk
Yes.
phase.
Where is it that he derives such ability?
From a god, he said.
Interesting. And Heinrich, what about him?
He's been much harder to peg where his power comes from. He, when we first started this journey, was elusive and has since mentioned the name Azra? But
Kind of cocks his head. It doesn't seem like there's any real recollection.
he doesn't follow her anymore and will not elaborate much.
He seems to care a great deal about your group, even Gunter. And not all of you seem to enjoy him as much as we do, which is confusing. Master Gamble seems to like him.
Gunter,
Gamble has always been a good judge of character.
he has. Gunter is, as I said, an agent of chaos and tends to manipulate a situation to his own ends.
I would continue to monitor and try to understand the dynamics of this group.
It
They are
is
confusing.
complex for sure.
But you do not object to attempting to understand this truth with Morwen.
If that is the path that you feel you must follow, then of course I don't object.
You can see now he doesn't look at you. He breaks the gaze. Since Kulturam, I have had trouble seeing any path. Something about what Eris says. Perhaps I can find it there.
Perhaps.
And he continues kind of cleaning himself off and preening his feathers, and it's a little bit quieter. But as that is happening, it is about 10:30. It's a good place to take a break. And we'll pick back up in like, I don't know, we'll say like 13 minutes. Give us a nice even number to 10:50. We can come back.
Not an even number, but
I understand that it is not
No,
even
no,
any.
The drop off point, the 1050 is an easy number. I got you.
Yeah. So we'll be back. It is 10:37 our time. We'll be back at 10:50. So in 13 minutes. See you then.
See you in a bit.
Welcome back to Adventures in Alberon. Thank you guys so much for sticking around through the break. We are doing this, for those of you just joining in, through a Discord format. And so we are all in different places, except for Ali, who are in the place that we always play. They're home, complete with all the bats and the fun stuff back there. So it's a little bit of familiarity. Oh yeah, and that bat right there. I'm sure that's how bats fly, like this.
Yeah, they flutter.
So gracefully.
We
They
all know
flutter,
that.
yeah. So when we left, we were we're gonna pick up with everybody scattered as per the
Oh yeah,
tradition
finger gang
within-
tradition.
Oh, new
Uh,
Split
Fingering
it up,
cities.
split it up, split it up.
So we're gonna start with Gunter and Heinrich.
Okay.
So you guys walk away from the Goblin Gable. Sounds of goblins chittering and laughing behind you, fading in the distance. What direction are you guys walking?
I'm following Gunter because he's still, last time I heard,
I
I
think
have no idea what's going on, the chittering noise, so.
pillar of stairs to scope out the blockade.
Okay, sure. So you guys begin to walk towards the pillar of stairs. Takes you about 45 minutes. You guys have to walk through an area of the statuary that you've been to.
Mhm.
So you're walking through for a time, very desolate place. Walking to the pillar of stairs, you would pass what looks like some kind of a humanoid. The statue has like a flowing kind of cloak, and so you can't make out much of the face except for a nose that is very kind of flat and elongated, but seems to come out almost like it looks like a hammerhead shark's head has been kind of jammed down.
Mhm.
And you can see the lips kind of curled away as if it's like shouting angrily. Seems to be heading away from the statuary pillar. But you pass that and you get to a. So the first things that you see from this pillar, aside from the fact that it's just kind of massive, it doesn't have anything carved out of it. You don't see structures attached to it. It seems so far from what you've seen to be the most intact of these pillars that support Kol Taram and the entire city above this city and the space that it occupies. But you do see out and kind of in the direction that you're approaching it from, like in front of it, this large half kind of tent open at one end, almost like a hat shell kind of. And you hear kind of like the rattling of chains coming into place, and the smell shifts as you draw close to it. A little bit more manure-y, kind of like a sour, kind of poopy smell of livestock or animals. And you hear these chains kind of rattling, and you can see there are here and there humanoids. A lot of them look to be dwarves. You actually see standing upright and wearing clothes, something that you've not seen these creatures do before, or insofar as they're being very social and speaking, although you do not speak this language. You see a gnoll. How long does sunset last?
An hour?
It has been an hour.
Okay.
So you do not speak this language, unfortunately. But you, talking with other people, still converse, doing things. It is a gnoll.
Fucking weird.
And then you catch sight of the creatures being kept. More of these kind of things that Morwen had seen earlier. Almost like dogs, very dog-like in the fact that they have 4 legs and they kind of walk in that quadrupedal manner. And you can see every now and then they look around, although catching sight of them, they don't look because they have no eyes. Very insectoid in their skin, almost kind of like plates that kind of go over themselves. But as you approach, even within like 50 feet, you can see they begin to kind of hold their heads up as if they can sense you approaching. Do you want to stop there? Or you want to keep going?
Well, I feel like we would have had a conversation off in the direction being like, good, or where are we going? What's the deal? What were you talking about that entire time?
The goblins want me to go get them some dagger so that I can go talk to Kevin.
A dagger. I mean, I got like 3. What do you mean a dagger?
It's like
Special?
a goblin dagger. It says something about their family heirloom.
Okay.
They said it's over by this blockade pillar stairs.
The pillar stairs. That's where. Oh,
That's where we're
okay.
headed. Yeah.
Well, that's convenient. That's where I would have gone had I not.
Yeah. So I don't know.
accompanied you.
They said it was going to be kind of tough. I don't know what the deal is. So I'm thinking maybe like we'll scope it out and see, because I think more would probably to get in on this.
Do you know, is she still back at the inn, or?
Well, I saw her over by the Goblins, but I don't know where
She
went
followed us.
after that.
Of course she did.
Yeah, you know.
Yeah.
So she'll catch up. She'll catch up.
Okay.
Uh,
I mean, I hope.
yeah, we'll scope it out. See
I mean,
what
was
we
this
can
a sketchy situation? Is it dangerous? Is it just dropped in
Uh,
an alley? Is it something we can recover and
It's
get this
something
over
about,
with?
bearded constituents and
Well, I heard that one.
Yeah.
That was the one word they said.
yeah. So those people will be there.
By the way, I've never heard you speak like that before. I was concerned at first and then realized you were actually talking with them. How did you do
Like what?
that? Like
Oh,
them?
well, I'm very good at impressions and impersonations.
Yes, I
So,
see that as you are still wearing disguise.
you know,
Yeah, and he looks. He has this green smear across his face, and his beard is still tied up together
Yeah.
like a.
Do you want to maybe not do that
oh,
thing?
I'm gonna wipe the stuff off and like take my beard down.
Okay, so you take some time to remove the green.
Mhm.
We'll call it disguise.
Good
Yeah.
call.
Yeah, and you undo your hair and still like bits of green in the snow white beard. Yeah.
So
you-
Gunter, for what it's worth,
Pick it out a little bit.
I just wanted to, while we're in the mouth of the beast, as it were, the place where we've been trying to get to. I'm happy that I let you do your thing and didn't really interrupt. I apologize that I haven't trusted you and your
Well-
ways as much in the past.
I'm glad that I appreciate the apology, but just know that old Goody's always there. You don't get to be 287 years old without knowing a thing or two.
Yeah, well,
What
this.
are you doing? Milking a cow?
He's taking all the
he's
little bits of
taking his
green
beard.
out of it.
Oh,
Uh,
of course that's what you're doing.
This
He's milking a tiny cow.
I'm learning this, and I'm trying to give it more credence than I had in the past, and I apologize, and just want you to know that I still think fondly about the time back in the Temple of Cord when you used the word friend. It still carries the weight it did now. That's all.
Wow.
When was that?
Anyways, let's let's carry on. So you're seeking this dagger thing.
Yeah, it's just a goblin dagger. It's goblins. They want a dagger. Get them a dagger, then they'll give us.
Did they even describe it, or do we know what it'll look like?
It's a goblin dagger.
So,
Classic goblin dagger. Goblin dagger design.
right, okay. Well, again, I trust that you would be able to identify like that.
Yeah.
You've seen a number of things in your years here. Where do you think we should go? I do have some business I would like to attend to while we're in this area, but
Well, what do you want to do?
well, again, the group of tieflings. One is rumored to be someone of importance in my life, and would just like to know that they're alive and well. And if they're here, that's the best way to do that, is to go see them. If
Is it
like
that-
Cinder said.
Is it that tiefling from way back? The one that you went on the date with?
Nope.
No?
Nope.
Oh, still
Hopefully
a
not.
sore subject.
Yep.
I'm sorry, buddy. You'll get. Hey, maybe this new group of tieflings, there'll be something for you.
I appreciate your concern, and I've seen your work with, and
Yeah,
Fine.
that's looking pretty good. Even though, oh my, what was Crack thinking? It's just
I do have to agree on that matter.
uh,
Right.
no
blunt.
tact, no tact.
Yes, tact. I mean, we were traveling with Shay far prior to another of her order. I'm not surprised that he is similar in the way that he is.
Yeah, but he doesn't.
Good
punish
luck
me.
on that matchmaking. It's if nothing else, quite entertaining to watch.
Yeah, that's pretty funny.
Yeah, it really is.
Love like as a joke.
Uh, so,
Anyways, if
think-
there's time to cut away from your main goal, if we can maybe two birds with one stone this, find a source of information, a bar, tavern, or something in the area. I don't really know other than this stable with these things that are kind of staring at us now.
all right, let me put a couple thinkings through.
Okay.
Where'd you say that these tieflings were gonna be?
Well, Cinder mentioned that they would be most likely in this area around the pillar
Around
of stairs, but I'm not exactly sure
All
whether,
right.
what more specific area they would be. I just know that they would come here to seek to lend their help.
All right.
That would be
Here's
the
how we're gonna play this one.
okay.
Oh no.
Those goblins told me that there were gonna be Stone Guard and bearded consort about. I don't know which one is, the bigger threat, but I say you go in posing as, a little too,
Sure.
you know,
Like I've been separated from the group, maybe.
yeah, you go looking for your information, simultaneously pepper in some mention about hearing something about goblins, looking for a dagger, see if you can find anything about them. Meanwhile, I'll be sneaking around behind, trying to look for the real big, juicy info that they've got locked up. So you distract.
So you're going to attempt to pull a Morrowind.
In all fairness, Gutta's been around for 287. I've been doing what Morwin's been doing.
I'm gonna extend this trust maybe a little too far, but I will extend this trusting thing.
Wow, Heinrich trusting Gunter.
Because I'm considering your thoughts here too, because you get to be the good guy. You go up and you say, "Oh, excuse me, Mr. Guards, Mr. Stone Guards, I'm looking."
Well, first, I would suggest that we at least find a place where information may be found. I wouldn't want to march right up to guards per se and start asking them, because those aren't often the people who know things. They may have seen things, but
in this situation, they might have, and they draw their attention away for me to go in. It's a foolproof plan.
Hold on.
And now, as you guys are having this conversation, you're walking by the actual pillar of stairs. So there's just, bricks kind of going by on your right, and you're walking down, and you're beginning to see now the edges there. And then there are elements of what look like a barricade. There are kind of wooden sort of like half walls, kind of, and you can see a couple of dwarven shapes, shorter, stouter, heavy armor on these dwarves. And you're beginning to see now also there are here and there, you'll see like a little goblin kind of wandering through this group. And as you draw closer, you guys, if you have more to say, you certainly can say it. But you are reaching the area that is the actual barricade proper.
What are the goblins' interactions with the guards?
So the goblins seem to be wandering around. Make an insight check.
Can we both do it?
Yeah, sure. Why not?
Okay.
I'm going to give him a pat on the old back and say, just follow my lead.
I'm going to be honest, the peaking audio is still your playstyle. As annoying as it is. All right. Insight, you said?
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's great. This is really good.
13.
26.
So Gunter, you begin to watch, but one of your eyes kind of drifts away and your vision goes blurry.
Oh, there's a goblin there.
Yeah, hard to really see. Heinrich, you pay very close attention as you guys draw close to the movements that are happening. you notice a couple things. First of all, the members of the Stone Guard garrison, you would imagine that they are the Stone Guard garrison because you did meet a member of theirs back in Gulliver's Bay. Or no, actually, all the way back in Port Quinn. And very similar sigil. It's a fist enclosed around what looks like a stone. You can see on their chests there is maybe like 4 or 5 of these Coltron dwarves. Dark hair, dark eyes, just kind of wearing like full plate mail. This plate mail is looks like it's probably iron, not dark in the way that yours is, not fancy in that way, but definitely like a darker kind of iron. You can also see that they have these various motifs of maybe bats or some kind of a winged creature in various locations. You also notice that there is a lot more goblin. Maybe in total, dozen or so. And based on their movements, you can see they are trying to keep up this illusion of like a perimeter walk or like a patrol.
Sure. They got their chests puffed out, and they're just like,
yeah, they're kind of walking around. It's on the way that they're kind of looking about. There's something else going on. With the information present, you can't necessarily make it out, but it seems as if they are
any
on
of
the
them like
lookout.
walking through the barrier.
So they're walking here and there. This is, you can kind of gather a part. Okay, this is, and as you kind of round the corner, you can see beyond just these two factions. There is a number of other. These ones a little bit smaller, a little less stout than the Stone Guard. They're not wearing armor, not that you can see at least. But these are dwarves who, a little bit paler in the skin. A lot of the hair seems to be almost naturally gray. Their beards are not in very to the Stone Guard or the Coltron dwarf. Not long, not ornate. A lot of them cut fairly short for a dwarf, fairly short, being like chest height. But they all have this sort of sigil, kind of many of them pinned on their tunics or on elements of like a cloak, almost like a cloak fastening thing, or you'll see actually on some of them tattooed what looks like a fist closed around some kind of a metal crown.
Is it similar to the very first box that we saw at the beginning of the campaign?
No.
Okay, because that was a fist.
Yeah, that was around the heart. That was the Black Heart.
Right. Okay.
Adventuring company.
Yeah. Okay. So something new.
Mm-hmm.
Oh wait, no, we've seen that before.
Gunter and Morwen have seen it before.
I drew that forever ago. Give me a sec.
Well, in the meantime,
notes. Yeah. I mean, so I see all of that. So like the presence of goblins doesn't seem to be disconcerting to.
It seems as if
dwarves.
They're all part of this game.
Okay.
I mean, you remember being told anybody who had a stake within the Undercity seems to have put horses here. You're also seeing now there are 2 goblins who are riding those larger kind of hound-like creatures that seem almost insectoid and eyeless. But they have actually like these saddles and they're actually riding to it. And you also see, different than everybody else, one dwarf, she carries herself very well, and you can see there is kind of birth. You can see as the goblins move around, a lot of their.
Sorry, you just cut out a fair amount.
Sorry. So around this, there is this dwarf wearing these kind of flowing black robes with these 2 twin red lines that kind of go around the hems, around the sleeves, over the shoulders. She has earrings that go down. You can see they seem to be almost like crescent moons, large and with negative space around. So kind of like wire wrapped. You can see also she holds in one hand this staff. Seems to be made out of black stone. Gunter, you being close enough to it, you can see it's made out of solid obsidian. It should weigh a ton. And embedded in it, there are at least 4 rubies that kind of take up places on the facets of the obsidian that lead up to the top, and there's kind of like a roughly hewn obsidian, almost knob that seems to be like for a handhold, although the staff itself taller than she is. A little bit of gray hair going into the black that goes back to a complex braid. But she seems to be, from what you can see, and I would say, Gunter, you pull this out. Both of you, actually. This is some kind of a magic user. And there is, Heinrich, to your point, it seems as if they're either plotting or at least very mistrustful
Of what?
of this dwarven woman. The goblins seem to be, whatever they're doing, they're keeping up the appearance of a patrol.
Mm-hmm.
It seems as if they're either surveilling her or are in some way something related to her.
And she's not part of the guard, clearly.
She might be,
Well-
but she's not. She isn't part of one of these factions that you've seen so far.
Okay.
I lean into Heinrich. I'm like, that one over there could be useful as a
thinking-
distraction.
Well,
She probably knows some magic. The goblins hate that.
yeah, that's definitely, I mean, what we were told.
Yeah, so if things go south, we get her to use some magic.
I mean, we don't even know who she is, what her name is.
Well, it doesn't matter.
We don't even. Okay, hold on.
For distraction purposes.
You get yourself wherever you want to be.
Okay, you stay on task too. Don't
Yes, exactly.
remember what I said.
You will be doing shady things, and I will be together.
Yeah, you know, a little bit of both.
Yeah, the old 1-2
Yeah,
combo
that way.
that we're
then
trying
we
out
have
for the
an
first
alibi.
time.
Then, what if we get caught? What was I doing? I was looking for my friend. He was looking for his information, but we'll be fine. Okay.
Sure. And hey, there's this magic user over here.
And
Hey,
with that
she sucks.
fully half-baked plan, you guys approach the barricade.
Yeah, I'll
real
go over
quick.
to her. Oh, sorry. Yeah, what's up?
So real quick, Shay, is there anything that you are trying to do? I mean, Kraddock gets all cleaned up. He gets all this like gross tar and makeup and just junk that's been kind of smeared across him most of the way off. But is there anything that you guys are doing in the
Probably not. I mean, I would have also done as much as I could to get the disguise off of me.
easier for you? It's just like the little bit smudged around your eyes, and then the rest is just taking this like weird kind of ghost costume off. Not terribly hard.
I mean, beyond that, I think I maybe would have gone outside a little bit, just like to keep an eye out, keep an ear out, but not straying too far.
Okay. When you go out, kind of going across the tile floor, Cinder would, because she's at the desk, stop and just go, can I get you anything?
No, thank you, Cinder. I'm good for now.
Very well. If you do need anything, I will be here.
Of course.
And she kind of resumes. She watches you go out and you open the door. And underneath the awning, the kind of crimson awning outside, you can see, or the black, awning with the crimson words outside, you can see just the kind of blackness around you. And here and there, you can kind of hear sounds of life from other parts of the city. But you can't see a whole lot. Make a perception check.
23.
Okay. So you kind of look at it, you don't see a whole lot, and kind of nod. It is nice being in somewhere that's not Gunter infused. And although I would say, yeah, he hasn't been loud enough that you can hear.
But the whole presence of like being underground, like I'm just unsettled. Like
Yeah, even though it is like a mass space, there is always a roof.
Yeah.
There's no sky, and that for you is very unsettling.
Yeah.
As you turn back, you can see this is one of the very few structures down here that has windows. And looking up on the second floor, right around where one of the rooms that you haven't been in has been, you can see just this kind of weird faded lacy curtain just move as if there was a curtain there. You go back inside. Nothing much. While that's happening, Morwen, back at the Gourmands, You sit there, you're kind of having this chat with the dwarf, and all of a sudden, another figure comes in. You can see this person. I'm trying to think if you've seen. Yeah, you have. Yeah, Warbinder Academy. Massive gray-skinned Goliath comes in. You can see wearing kind of mismatched leather armor. Although some of the sort of jewelry that he wears, you can see, almost like steel beads in different shapes, kind of go down. Very shiny looking. He's not poor by any means. He's coming in with what looks like another Coltrom dwarf. They kind of take a look at the bar. There is no real connected seats, and so they go back and they take up residence at the one table behind. And they begin to kind of have a conversation. What are you doing?
How far behind is that? Could I eavesdrop?
Yeah, maybe like 10
Try
feet.
to?
Yeah,
Okay.
make a perception check.
Natural 20.
Okay. A 20.
It'd be a 25.
So you hear everything. As Goliath turns over to his companion or his ally or whoever the gentleman is.
Is it two Goliaths? Who's this?
It's a Goliath and another Coltrom dwarf.
Okay.
And so he turns to the dwarf next to him. And they're talking pretty quietly, but it's not like a huge place. And so it's not terribly noisy. It's pretty easy to make out what they're saying, for you especially. But he turns to the dwarf and he just says, anyways, hate working for them, but they always talk. And I was hearing a little bit about the Colts and how they came. And you can hear the dwarf kind of just looks up and says, everybody knows how they came here. It was like a prison break, right? And you can hear the Goliath just say, no. The way that I heard it, Doldrum dug his way out with his family under the nose of the god. Within, oh man, I gotta check my notes. Can't remember what it's called. Within the.
Wait, also, you cut out a little bit at the beginning. Did you drop any names specifically?
Cold rot.
Doldrum.
And
Wait, Cold Rot and?
Cold rot clan, right?
Cold
Right.
Rock is the kind of like criminal family, I guess, that kind of works. In this
Criminal
area.
majority.
Yeah, Gunter's
Yeah.
And that name was dropped?
And Doldrum we
It
already
was
knew.
dropped a while ago. Doldrum, you
Who
did
runs
not.
the Dark Hive.
He
No,
is
I just
the
mean
leader
within
of
this
the Cold Rock.
conversation.
No, that was the only name that was.
Okay.
And then, no, you said one more.
D-O-L-D-R-U-M. Doldrum.
When you talk to me
Sorry,
at the same
because the
time,
headphones.
what are you saying?
Doldrum. D-O-L-D-R-U-M.
Yeah.
Is the dude.
Okay.
So the way that I heard it, dug his way out underneath the nose of the, within the halls of penance, got away clean, brought his clan down here, snuck the fortune down bit by bit. They say, when he's in his cups, behind the portrait in his office, within the apartments of the Cold clan, that very passage still exists. You can break into the prison, and you can hear the dwarf just kind of like, why would you want to break into a prison? And they, just kind of continue to talk. But you'd imagine, were you to get into the apartments of the Cold Rocks, there is a very direct path to Cold Trom. But eavesdropping in, the rest of the conversation does have a little to do with like a real low-end security job at a place that's called the Cage of Might. And just kind of watching out for people who might interfere in whatever. He keeps referring to matches, so whatever match is occurring there.
That's the Fight Club.
Juicy. Very juicy. If I have time, unless you're moving on to someone else,
Good.
I want to eavesdrop on that awkward first date.
Make a perception check.
All right, Joe, roleplay a first date.
Not
By yourself.
It's 11.
They're talking in a pretty hushed way, and here and there you can see like little elements of movement. kind of hard to make out. They do keep their back, or she keeps her back very pointedly to you. But they are in a conversation, so it's not going terribly. It's not one of those things where he's like checking his phone or equivalent. But yeah, it seems like it's going okay. Can't make out much.
I don't know. Is there any other conversations going? Not really, right?
Not really. You get this dwarf who steadily getting more drunk. Every now and then does cast you a glance because he did suggest that you might have wanted to go home with him. He doesn't really know
No.
what that means, so he's still, and
I
you
don't wanna.
confused him after, so he's still just trying to gauge it. But yeah, not a lot going on.
All right. I think I'm just gonna. I'm gonna slowly pack up then.
Okay, seeing you do that, the owner of it just kind of walks over, and the whole thing runs you. We'll run you 5 silver pieces actually for that.
Okie dokie.
Gourmand, indeed.
Pack your stuff up and head out. And where are you going?
I guess the only other thing that I saw other than this would be the goblin with the little hounds. So I want to go check out those hounds.
Okay, so you head off in the direction of the pillar of stairs. Gunter and Heinrich.
Mm-hmm.
So you guys walk right into the garrison.
Mm-hmm.
And as you do,
What? Well, we're separate, right?
are you guys going separate?
Yeah, because we're
Yeah,
not
okay.
we're not
Yeah.
together.
So you're going in first, Gunter.
I'm gonna pretend to just be old, old dwarf Gunter,
Okay. And as you do that,
lost old and alone, harmless old.
As you do that, one of the dwarves in full plate mail, she walks up to you. You can see she has like long black hair that isn't intricately braided or anything like that. That kind of cascades down her back and out the back of the actual helmet itself. And you can see flares out to cover the gap between the breastplate and the helmet. But she holds up a hand, which is gauntlet. You can see this is like full high quality plate mail. Excuse me. Old man.
Oh, me? Hello.
Yes.
Hi. Oh, hi.
Terribly sorry. You've wandered into a place that you can't go.
Oh, how come? What is this place?
She looks around a little bit incredulously. This is the pillar of stairs. It is what
Are you
leads to
saying I can't
Gourmands.
climb the stairs?
No, because it's restricted.
Why?
Because that is the direction whatever is happening above will come from.
What's happening above?
Where are you from?
I've been around.
Evading the question doesn't make it go away.
What?
Evading the question, and she like speaks up as if like she thinks that you can't hear her. Evading the question does not make it go away.
What question?
Are you lost? Is there somebody that we could call?
I'm looking for someone. They said they would be over here.
And who is that person?
Well, it was my friend who, I don't know where he went, but he was looking for some people. But then I was also looking because I met a couple of nice goblins, just like these guys over here. And they told me that
As you point and she turns, you can see like they're all kind of watching you as you've approached, and they all just suddenly like turn and very pointedly make it look like they're looking at you. So like one of them even like tries to lean up and there's nothing there, so he falls and has to like stand back up. Like one of them just kind of runs. But as you do that, she turns. Very nice friends that you keep. But
they weren't my friends. I mean, I was just, I'm looking for friends. They were telling me to look over here.
well, I'm telling you to look anywhere else. but this is not a place for friends.
But what?
While
what-
this is happening, is there a way around while she's engaged? Is there like what? Where is this other dwarf lady? The one that had like the magic
Maybe like 50
user?
feet 50 feet beyond, and at this point she's kind of, her back is a little bit turned to you. It's kind of surveying beyond. See,
Is there a path to it that isn't like obvious, or at least a way around that Gunter's engaged with?
yeah, for sure. You can kind of wander through. I mean, this barricade is made up of kind of like half walls that have been built.
Yeah.
Some reinforced with metal, some kind of in the process. There is a series of 4 large cages off, and kind of what this woman seems to be looking at. They're empty at the moment.
Okay.
You would catch kind of going around the other side of the pillar, all like way over. This sort of portly goblin walking maybe the occupants of this cage, kind of in a circle. He's holding on to these leads that have already disappeared around the corner. But let's see. I mean, you can just kind of wander between structures. There's enough space where it doesn't look. You imagine you'll probably get stopped, seeing that Gunter has been stopped, but you know, you can kind of walk over there.
And she's beyond the barricade?
Yeah, maybe like 50 feet beyond.
All right, I'm gonna keep letting this play out while I think of something.
Okay. So Gunter, she kind of takes another step forward and gently puts one of these gauntleted hands on your shoulder. Let's find you somewhere else to go.
Okay, but can I?
And she's kind of, you can feel like pretty strong. She's kind of turning you away now.
Okay, but I need to find. It's over there, that way.
The only thing beyond the pillar of scale, large ditch and giants. I don't think your friend would want you to go to either.
What about goblin daggers?
You can see for the first time kind of like a little smile. I appreciate the, but you're a little bit old for me. Thank you. And she kind of shoves you off a little bit, and you she turns and begins to walk back to the barricade with you now maybe like 20 feet outside of it. You watch as she walks in. One of the other stone guard appears, and she kind of says something, and you can see both of them turn to look at you and then turn back, and the other stone guard kind of takes a little bit more of like a firm stance. Seems to be not watching you, but now probably instructed not to let you back in. Heinrich, any thoughts on your plan?
I think I'm just gonna do the direct approach up and in towards the least guarded area that I can get through. Hopefully no one would. It's like with a confident stealth, if that makes sense. Just kind of like
Make a persuasion check.
Like there may be tieflings here.
Sure.
Would not be performance?
I
guess it's the same, so it doesn't really matter. It's fine.
You can do performance. That makes sense.
All right. Yeah, because like just walking as if like I'm part of a group of tieflings I know may be here. That's kind of like the intention.
I gotcha.
All right. 15.
Okay. So you, holding your chest out high, just kind of walk between one of the kind of half-height walls where you see one of the goblins who is just like picking at something in his teeth, kind of turns, all the sharp rows of teeth kind of facing you, and this long blackened fingernail fishing something a little bit even blacker than the nail out, and just kind of like turn away from you, and you just walk right through.
Perfect.
Nobody stops you, although eyes do follow you.
Sure.
And you approach this woman.
Yeah, continually doing that.
Yeah. And you make your way straight up. You're maybe within 10 feet of her. She's still kind of regarding the cages. Although now you would imagine it's almost as if she's staring at nothing. She's probably thinking. But what do you want to do?
So I get up close enough so that it's like a one-on-one, no overhearing conversation.
Okay.
And just be like, excuse me.
And you can see there's a moment where she kind of stiffens. But she turns and facing you, maybe a little bit older than middle-aged. Large mole on her right cheek. this woman, there's something that's kind of off, and at first you can't quite tell what it is, but then you notice the eyes. The eyes for a dwarf, and she is a dwarf. She is a Coltaram dwarf. There's something about the shape that is a little bit disconcerting. And they remind you of somebody. Make a straight intelligence check.
Nope.
They remind you
four.
of something. Yeah, they remind you of something, but kind of hard. You're grasping straws. But you kind of blink, and it's not that they're normal, but you know you can kind of see where maybe just a weird looking person. But as she
Can you
turns,
describe the eyes to me? Or
yeah, I mean, you know, something about the brow line, very rigid. And you can see underneath where there should be just kind of like these gentle slopes or maybe a cheekbone. Again, from underneath the skin almost, there is like a firm almost structure. But difficult to really tell. Maybe just like weird bony protrusions, maybe kind of lumpy person. I don't know.
Mhm. So again, that
But you can see her eyebrow kind of goes up.
Yeah.
And she turns and just says, "Ah, are you lost?"
no, I'm just looking. Looking for
And you can see she's like looking behind you now, kind of figure out how you got here.
yeah. Just looking for the others of my group.
Others of your group. You couldn't be looking for the other tieflings. They went through almost a week ago.
Yes, well, unfortunately we were separated on the road, and I'm sure are you from here? Are you
Yes.
familiar with the passage and the difficulty which it takes to get here?
I'm from Cold Taram. I
Right.
resided in the Silver Circle and
Ah,
came down here bringing people, attempting to save those that we could.
right.
But you wouldn't be wise to go in there alone.
Well, I wouldn't be alone if I were able to catch up with. If I were to rejoin my folk. Unfortunately, we were separated on the road to here. They may have told you the stories of their difficult travels and all of the wormlings that were fought along the way.
They
Well,
haven't
not wormlings,
mentioned wormlings,
not
but they did
wormlings.
say
It was the
that
God. What was the word for it? What were the things that we
Wyverns?
wyverns? That's more or less what I would have.
they didn't say
I
anything
remember
about a
it.
wyvern.
Oh. Well, unfortunately, that must be what separated us. See, I was, when traveling with them, thrown quite a distance and was able to save myself, but at the moment was separated from them. Knew our heading and continued on my own way, cautiously, of course, which is how I made it here. But I would very much like to reconnect with them and continue our push into helping
Your
the
pilgrimage,
city.
yes.
Exactly.
Well, again, we will let you pass as we let the others pass. Their leader or your leader is very persuasive.
Mhm.
I will tell you what I told them. It is dangerous. And though those hallways had been abandoned for some time, we were steadily pushed back. There are things from above that I'm sorry to say I don't think that your friends will be found in the same condition that you parted in.
Hmm. Hmm. And I'm sorry. I have been rude, maybe just because of my time alone and stress of catching back up with them. But what is your name?
Ah, uh, my name is Zelga.
Zelga.
People around here call me the Stone Staff, and she kind of holds out the staff. Obvious reason.
Yes. I mean that is why I came to you. You seem quite able to handle yourself, therefore you should know a fair amount. And, well, maybe not know a fair amount, but carry yourself well. Hold on one sec.
Well,
Stone staff, is that what you said?
yeah, Zelga, the Stone Staff. She said people call.
Right. Okay. Well, in a place such as this, where you say that the halls are a little more perilous than they used to be, I know that there are other ways into the city. Many do. It's not, it's not hidden knowledge per se.
Of course.
Would there be any potential safer passage than the most direct route? You are from here. The threat is not. It does not know every nook and cranny, I'm sure.
Well, and that is what keeps us.
Exactly.
And one of the reasons that we, or just anybody, walk.
Sorry, you cut out a
Again.
fair amount, Joe.
All right, I got to figure out what's going on with this thing.
It's all right. We'll work on it. Yeah.
Yeah. What is keeping us safe right now is that very hidden nature of our ways.
Right.
We don't want just anybody going through. We don't want anybody just drawing attention to us.
Correct.
That said, make a persuasion.
Joe, I
correct,
sent you a message.
Okay.
I just sent you.
Okay. You said persuasion?
Yep. Make a stealth check.
Me?
Nope.
Oh, okay. Sorry. 21.
Damn. Okay.
Yeah.
You can see her eyes kind of try to peer into your. She seems to search your face for meaning and kind of nods. There are other ways, although a safe place from here to Koltaram does not exist. But there are other ways. You may have noticed the drain, and she turns and points again from where you guys are, kind of like a northeasterly direction. And
Is
then
that
it's
back
somewhere...
towards the gentle repose?
No, it's like through the actual tower of stairs or the pillar of stairs. And actually, she's referring to that massive ditch that kind of forms the barrier between the Undercity and the supposed giant.
Mm.
It was built, this whole place was originally built as a way to drain any runoff from the River of Colors so that it does not erode the mountain and thus collapse culture.
Mm.
But drains all go where they lead from somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Follow the drain long enough and you will reach Colchor. Although there are rumors that things reside within the Greywater Run. I have not been myself. It is deep with, but if water still flows, it must connect. You could try to find your way through the Underdark. It does eventually connect to Koltaram on the outskirts of the Dark Park and in other places, I'm sure. But the
That's
Underdark
deep,
is a very dangerous place.
Yes. I mean, much more dangerous than what threatens the city, I suppose.
Oh,
Maybe
I don't
not.
think so.
Well, then, sounds about right. If I needed to get a safe, more direct passage to where they may have headed off to, I feel that might be the best way. Now, could you tell me, just in case I collect myself enough to follow in their exact footsteps, what was their original heading?
They were traveling up the pillar of stairs, which is 10 stories, to the actual staircase that will lead them to the outskirts of Koltaram's stone circle.
Hmm.
It is incredibly dangerous. There are a number of ways through. Not all well explored, but the ones that we had guarded originally have been overrun at this point.
Hmm.
Not by the forces upstairs. There are separate things that have crawled. Whatever invaded upstairs, whatever invaded Koltaram, pushed many of the normal native inhabitants down.
Right. And hence the mingling of those that would not normally mingle.
Indeed. Kind of looks around at the goblins.
Yeah.
Tampering.
Yeah. It seems like a forced allegiance. What exactly were the forces? What were their numbers comprised of?
When they went through, there were 7 of them. Although I heard there are still some residing within the Undercity. Not all went through.
Hmm.
They had said that they were here originally leaving the kingdom, rather, looking for a place that had a little less. How did he put it? He had such a way with words.
I assume he would.
But leaving behind some of the negative aspects of being a tiefling within the kingdom, looking
Mhm.
for a place that might accept. I told him, Koltaram, even arriving as a hero would not gain them acceptance. There is a. She looks around at some of the other Stone Guard, and you can see she is not a member of the Stone Guard.
Right.
Some of us do not hold others in quite the same regard that we hold ourselves. I told this group such, but they insisted that they were here to help.
Do we know what the opposing forces are mainly comprised of?
That's just the thing. As people trickle down from Koltaram, we hear many things. Giants, ogres, dragons. From what I can tell, things above are turning. Old allegiances do not lie true.
Exterior influences.
It seems. People have spoken of dreams, although we have not had them.
Interesting. It seems that my path to catch up has been laid before me. You spoke of some of my group being still down here?
Yes.
Where might be the, most accessible place to find them?
Well, I have not seen them. They did not come to the pillar. All I know is said that there was 3 of them who had stayed behind. And they may attempt to come through, and we were to attempt to dissuade them, but ultimately allow them, like we will with you.
Of course. Which is appreciated, of course. Any other of your... Well, you're not part of, I take it, the Stone Guard around here, are you?
No.
Of which group do you hold your allegiance?
And asking that question, she does kind of draw herself up fully.
Uh-huh.
I am a member of the Bearded Consortium.
Aha.
And you can see she's like waiting to read your.
I show a little bit of hearing that word once before spoken in common, and catching on to that would be like, yes, wonderful. Yes,
And you can see she holds up a hand at that reaction and says,
Mhm.
The first female member. I know it is not tradition, but.
Hey, I will have to say that you
Fuck
may...
patriarchy.
Yeah,
Yes.
fuck the patriarchy.
Yes.
Should you, and this is the worst case scenario in the immediate course of your life, should you need to flee, there's quite a bit of progress being made in terms of people of your stature holding station down in Dominion. Not saying that it's a great place necessarily, but a lot of good reformations have been happening lately.
We've heard of New Kultura. It's an interesting idea, but dwarves were not made to live under the open sky.
Of course, of course. There's plenty of ground underneath Port Quinn, I assure you. But enough being said on that. I do thank you very much for your information, and I will do my searching for the other members, and maybe we can rally all together and try to catch up with the other group and hopefully reconnect with them.
What is your name? I can leave it, and we can make sure that you are not stopped.
Yes, here. Let me write it down for you, and I write down Nakavir,
Okay. Okay.
because you know that would be the thing that they would know.
Absolutely. So you write down.
Mhm.
She
Wait.
takes it.
Okay, sorry, your audio cut out, but I think I got it. That I write down that and she takes it. Yeah. Okay.
Yep. She takes it and kind of just reads it, and you can see she repeats it a couple times, folds the paper up, and kind of puts it away. We'll make sure that you can rejoin your people should you make that choice. But again, strongly recommend against.
Right. Well, I wouldn't have come here if there was any other choice.
Very well. I will probably not be here. I do have important business with the consortium. It was my turn in the rotation.
Out of curiosity, should I seek your help again? Where might I find the consortium?
We are based out of the. You are not from around here. You came with your.
Of course.
Right?
Of course. And I came alone too on top of that, so even less from around here.
The structure most to the northeast, the largest of what we call pillars, has a community around it that has grown, and they are within that group. It will be hard to locate. But ask around for tieflings. There are not many.
Of course. What was the name of the pillar?
It was the glowing pillar, but when we were forced down, we cleared out the infection that had plagued those halls and caused them to glow. They no longer do.
Fair enough. Well, again, thank you for your time, I suppose, and all of the information regarding my compatriots.
You are very welcome, Markavir. I hope our paths do cross again.
I do as well. And I would turn and exit at that moment.
Gunter, what'd you roll?
16.
Okay. So you hobble your way over, and it feels relatively hidden.
All right.
God damn it, don't blow my cover.
So,
fuck, I really have to be
I would like to discreetly cast Locate Object and look for the Goblin Dagger.
Sure. Okay, and its range is 100 feet?
1,000 feet.
1,000 feet. Okay, yeah. So you do, as you cast this discreetly in a place that is clearly very hidden, you look up and you can see probably on the... Hold on 1 second here. Probably no further than like 70 feet from the entrance that you can see. You can get like a little bit of a glow. It seems faint, as if it's behind a couple of different walls. But you do make out that the dagger is in that region. Not terribly far.
And looking around, do I see any potential access points that are outside of the gaze of the people that we've so far seen?
Make an investigation check.
Six.
No, as you pick your way through the bits of like rubble and stone and things that kind of come up against the side of the pillar of stairs, you have to concentrate pretty hard and not falling. And so you don't really fall. You don't find any potential entrance ways. It's a pretty well sealed tower.
Okay. Like, this seems like a job for Marwin. All right. I'm gonna check to see how Heinrich's doing, and then be like, we're just doing recon. Just recon. This is good. Plan all according to plan.
Okay, so you watch from afar as Heinrich has a conversation with the dwarf. And they just talk for a little bit, and you can see Heinrich kind of nods and writes something down and hands it to her, and then turns and walks off. And you can reunite with Heinrich if you want.
Yeah, I'm gonna sneak up to Heinrich.
Okay. Yeah, you sneak up on Heinrich. He doesn't hear you.
Like,
Huh,
Get anything
what? Well, nothing about your dagger, unfortunately.
Ah.
But
well,
it
I
was-
know where it is, so we gotta get more when it.
where
It's about 70 feet that way, and I point to where I saw it.
And you see Gunter, his little old finger kind of point and shakily past the door, past Zelga, past the door, and like somewhere within the pillar of tower. The
okay.
pillar of tower. The
Pillar of
pillar
tower?
of stairs.
So it's within the pillar, and that's the most accurate description you were
Yeah.
able to ascertain. Okay.
And
I
he's
mean,
pointing like at the first floor. It's like probably pretty close in.
okay.
So we gotta get in there. And I think Morwin's the one for that job. You get anything good?
I got enough information to immediately say that is a terrible idea. Namely because of the fact that any access apparently that is obvious, and I kind of gesture to that pillar and then the other one and other ones, like anything direct seems to be kind of directly threatened by well, the problem with this city and the threat that it is under. If we go in there, I suppose it should be an in and out.
Yeah, in out. Just quick, grab the dagger, in out.
How important is this dagger to?
It's pretty important.
Well, what were you seeking to gain out of it? I could stand for the same conversation you had before with the goblins. What are you getting out of this that would help all of us, other than your personal gain, which of course is important to
Well,
your
we get-
longevity and
we
everything?
get,
But
contact within the city who can provide us with things while we're here.
would it be enough to align us with the overwhelming horde of the?
The goblins?
Sure. Could they potentially lend aid if need be?
I mean, if we ask them, maybe. That wasn't part of the deal, but
How,
I
what was the
mean,
deal? What's your deal, dude?
I told you, I want to talk to that.
Well, we can just probably meet him again in the at some point if it's.
No, they won't let me talk to him. He's very busy.
Yeah, but we saw him in the square. Why don't we
Well,
wait a
he's
day
not
and see
there.
there?
Okay, and then there's some other stuff too, but I'd rather not discuss it.
Well, being forthright with each other is very important to survival in a dangerous place such as this. And I have
All
lent
right,
you
but
my trust. I would appreciate a little back.
Okay, just promise not to get all like the way you do sometimes.
I will say nothing. I will listen to your.
All right. Well,
Your
the
story.
goblins, they have a good connection that'll give me a certain inn at a gambling den.
Okay.
And we'll be able to easily acquire funding through this scam. Yeah, I told you, it's a scam. I'm being honest with you. Okay?
You know, Gunter, for
I'm
the
being
first time.
honest, it's a scam.
For the first time ever, I appreciate the honesty and will personally do nothing to stand in the way of what you seem to deem as the most important. But I would like to point out that we are here to. We're here in a way to prevent the destruction of the world, potentially.
Damn, big goal.
Potentially, it's a connected point to larger, more terrible things, such as, I mean, you were there when, and I hate to bring it up, but when our friend was cut in half, this seems directly connected to that. and I can't explain exactly how. And I
Well,
really
then all
don't.
the more reason that we get this dagger.
Well, how does that connect?
Well, what if
I'm
that's
trying to
another
see your.
artifact? The last time we went somewhere and had something fancy that someone wanted us to get, you know what happened. You were there.
Yes.
Still
I
not-
am willing to go along with your intuition since it has kept you alive these 287 years.
Yeah,
Time.
you're not
However,
wrong.
however, I would request from you that this be, if it seems too dangerous for the survival of
If
any
things
of
get
us.
hot, we're getting out of there. It's never a question.
Well, exactly, but if we need to send only one in, how would we all know any danger happening to that person?
Well, they,
You guys are literally
Yeah.
discussing the gamble of my life.
Exactly.
Just
Well,
talk
my talk thing can only work so far and with limits.
just say like, hey, you know,
Okay.
2
Let's-
ouches for help me and 1
For
ouch for we're good. You know?
Ouch! Oh, she's fine.
ouch! Oh no, she's in danger.
How about
Okay.
the safe word is,
What do
you're
you
killing
want?
me.
The safe word. Yeah, the safe word
The
is
safe word
I'm dying.
Yeah.
No, that's too loud.
Okay. If this seems like something that could be done quickly, that is fine.
Yeah, quick
I
in
would
and
let.
out. We go in, we get
I
back,
will.
and
Let,
we out.
I will
We out.
disengage myself. I will disengage myself from the plans and strategies and that type
Well,
of
no,
manner that you and Morwen would come up with to retrieve this potential artifact or
No one's even
dagger
asked me.
or anything at all. I'm going to leave that up to entirely you and her to discuss.
Okay,
I
great.
have my own
So-
new agenda now. I need to go find these. So the tieflings that I was searching for are not. They weren't present. I needed to find them. But very importantly, and important for you as well, because there may be things that you might find interesting. An easier, faster route up to the top.
I'm not trying to get to the top. I told you. Yeah.
Yeah, but if the whole place is deserted, nothing is guarded, including value.
Wow. Yeah, but
And we could always require or use your abilities and assistance in combat.
really want to get that Kenku though.
Joe, would I be coming across
So
them
at this
yet?
point, at this direction,
I love this heart to heart.
a little bit more to the east. So you're seeing this kind of camp where all these hounds are kept, or these weird kind of eyeless, hairless dogs. So you're roughly in the area.
Do I see them?
Make a perception check.
Do I hear them?
Still make a perception check,
9.
but in sound.
Passive 15.
Yeah, not really. You see. Yeah, no. You see the garrison. You see Zelga, although you do not know who he is. You kind of dwarf with this very shiny staff. You can see there's a couple goblins kind of wandering around. You can see all that kind of stuff, but you don't see Hunter. You don't see Geindrick. I said Geindrick and Hunter.
Geindrick and Hunter, I love it.
Hunter and Geinrich.
That's your couple name is Geindrick.
That's yeah, we're Geindrick. That's fine. When we do this type of thing, Geindrick or Hunter.
Yeah. So yeah, you don't see them, but you see some of the other stuff around there.
Not interesting. I'm going back to the haunted house.
Okay. In walking to the haunted house, make another perception check because you're going to walk right through where they are.
Yeah.
That's a 14.
14.
Is
I would
she
say with the
sneaking?
no.
Do
At least
we
I don't
see
think you
her?
are. Make a perception check.
Why would you make
Passive
Actually,
19.
I was going to say actually with a passive 19,
Jesus Christ.
I would say you do see, kind of as you're talking and you're just kind of like discussing this plan with Heinrich.
All
You do
right. So
see kind of behind him and then passing off into the left, Morwen.
oh, hold that thought, Heinrich. Morwen.
Wait.
Oh, hey!
Hold on.
What's up, guys?
Let's
Like a whole bunch of people in the garrison are now turning and looking.
let's not blow any potential cover I have socially now with the people on the other side. Let's go over to her and then go back to the.
Okay, yeah. You go that way. I'll walk this way, and then we'll meet up.
Yes,
I'm
we
gonna
were just
walk-
having a random conversation among two citizens. You live here or are also traveling here, and I.
Morwen, what are you
traveling here.
doing?
I'm approaching
This
them,
is
but
the
it
worst
sounds like they're
idea
about to.
So you walk up right kind of as they're having.
Fuck.
They just walk away from me.
I can't
You
believe that.
split up to go meet up.
You call me over and then you leave.
Every good intention and all that work did, I really, really hope that it's not undone.
We'll find out.
It's so fucking mad.
But
So
because it
hey
is-
guys.
Oh, wait. Have Morwen do your last thing. Do your last thing.
I just did.
Oh.
And so as Morwen, you arrive, and you just kind of, and then Gunter just peels off, and Heinrich just peels off. You're left alone, standing in front of the garrison outside of the pillar of stairs, because it's midnight. That is where we're gonna end.
Fuck.
Even though I thought you guys for the first time were like, we're gonna go to Koltaram,
Yeah.
we're gonna do it in a timely manner, and so I was like, cool. And I got like
we
all
just
these
needed
different
an
ways for-
in.
Fair enough.
Then you had to show that Kenku, Kevin.
Yeah, you guys are really
Last
into Kevin,
session.
huh?
You're really into him, and like, oh man. All I'm hoping is that we get some sort of allegiance. The if that works out, some sort of fodder military.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
I
an
mean, it's
Probably
gonna
not
be real,
legally.
it's gonna be real interesting for sure.
Goblin
Anyway,
water.
thank you guys very much for hanging out and showing up every week and following along in this D&D adventure, even as we kind of get some issues sorted out,
Mhm.
figure out what's going on with the microphone, figure out the microphones that we got for you guys and all that stuff.
Mhm.
Everything will continue to improve. But for tonight, we are done. Take care of yourselves. Stay safe, especially right now and all the craziness happening. And we'll see you next week.
Bye.
See you next week.